Hello, it's a hello from me, and it's a hello from these guys as well. Mike McDonald, it's great to have you on board again, Mike. How are you?
Doing well, thanks, Andrew. Yeah,
Great to have you on board. And Richard, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Yeah, looking forward to this, actually. I think it's going to be a good show, this.
Yeah, always enjoy having you on as well. I think we always, like I said, off air, I think we always have some good battles about players that we don't disagree on, but it's always in good faith. And Chappers, fingers crossed, you've got a really good signal at the moment. Great to have you on.
I mean, there's no response to that one, is there? You know, we can we can pray to the football gods, the footballing podcast gods, and see if it works in our favour tonight. That's all I got.
I must say, you're looking great. You're looking more and more like a character at Game of Thrones every episode at the moment.
Do you know what? I thought you were going to say you're looking more and more like a character from The Simpsons because my lighting's a bit weird, but I'll try and sort that out.
You haven't got quite the face shape for that, or the lips or anything. You need a Leslie Ash trout pout, I think, and then you'll be halfway there.
Well, I love the Game of Thrones reference. In fact, funnily enough, somebody actually just sent me a WhatsApp of the actor Ewan Ryan, who plays oh god, what was his name? The really nasty guy who cut off Matey's penis. Well, anyway, yeah, a picture of him and sort of
finger.
Oh, what's his name? I just can't remember. I keep wanting to say Bradley Walsh. I keep wanting to say Bradley Walsh, but it's obviously not him.
He's been in most things, but I don't think he's in Game of Thrones.
No. The name
Game of Thrones, by the way. I've never ever watched it.
No, it's been a few years since I watched it as well, to be honest, so I've forgotten.
I think you make an excellent maester, Rich.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'll assume it's a compliment, so I'll thank you for that.
And Mike looks more like Peaky Blinders. With your hat on there, Mike. It's great.
Trying.
Looking good. Good. Right, let's get going. It's going to be a good one today, I think. I'm really looking forward to it. It's the squad, the 25-man squad for the next season, 21-22. And I think we're going to have a few disagreements along the way, which is always healthy. But it's quite a complicated thing to really work out. I mean, you've got a lot to take into account with the non-homegrown players. You can only have a maximum of 17. You can only have, obviously, you need to have 8 homegrown players, ideally, as well in your squad. But you can also have as many academy players as you like. There's no sort of restriction on that as well. But bearing in mind, we are obviously only going to be looking at the Premier League squad. So a lot of decisions I put my teeth in to make regarding who you're going to let go, who you're going to bring in, who you're going to promote, and so on and so forth. And there's going to be a few hard decisions as well with players we probably like, but think it's probably best to say au revoir to. So I think we'll go through. Well, the way I've worked it out, if we go through the goalkeepers first, I've actually then got the right backs, the left backs, the centre backs, and I've also split up my midfielders into central defensive midfielders and the attacking midfielders. Doesn't matter if you haven't, but I just thought it's an easier way for me to imagine things, really. And I think it's a good way of looking at it because they're very, very different types of players, as we know. So goalkeepers-wise, myself personally, I haven't really made any changes apart from, if we can, just to get rid of Rooney McBroonface, who is obviously nowhere near good enough for us. But I've gone with Leno and Ryan still. Now, I've mentioned a few times that I don't think Leno is a long-term goalkeeper good enough to get us where we really want to go, which is obviously league champions and going as far as we can in the Champions League eventually. Now, we're way off that. So, in my opinion, although I do want to move on from Leno eventually, he's far from top of the list of priorities, and we've got a lot more to do, I think, in the summer than worrying about replacing Leno personally. And then the third choice, it could either be, I'd be happy with either Arthur Okonkwo or Carl Hein from the under-23s, who I think are progressing really, really well personally. So I'll go to you first, Mike, and see what your thoughts are on the goalkeeper situation for the squad next year.
Well, the ins and outs selections are identical to yours there, Andrew. I need to ditch Runarsson. Got a small little fee there, I think 25 pence and some fruit pastels for him.
That's a bit dear, isn't it? You'll get that much?
Well, maybe one of those sherbet things. You remember them licorice sticks?
Yeah.
I'd go for it myself because I love fruit pastels, you know.
All right.
I like the sour ones.
Chappers
Nice.
has already bought. He's bought Runarsson off me. I lied, Chappers. It's 2 million. So if you could just mail me the cashier's check for 2 million.
Sorry, no. I love fruit pastels. I'm selling them to you, mate. I want the fruit pastels.
Anyway, I agree with your. Sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
I was going to say I've been a little bit more pessimistic on the price we potentially might get for him. I'll put a minimum of $1 million to a maximum of 2 million. I think we're quite happy with getting the £1 million back that we paid, really, or near enough.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I totally agree.
On the side of caution.
Yeah, sure. On the Leno thing, I'm right with you. I would say that I think that Leno has got better every season he's been at Arsenal, and he's been one of our players of the season this year. Of course, he's much better handling the ball, saving shots than he is making decisions with his feet, but I still think he's got better at that. And Matty Ryan is that was a really good signing for me, and I did debate the other fella I debated on, but there's no reason to not go with Matty Ryan because he's going to be free, and so is this guy. And I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, but he's the keeper at Palace who's going to be free in the summer as well. Vincente Guaita. Yeah, but he's the same as Matty Ryan. But there's no point choosing him over Ryan really because Ryan's done well, and I like the fact he's an Arsenal fan, Andrew. Quite honestly, I like that. I think that actually adds 10% to a player's game if they really want to play for the club, and especially a keeper sitting on the bench. He's going to be frustrated unless he's got a reason to be there. And I think Matty Ryan's got a reason to be there. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It goes a long way in my book as well. The fact that you can tell that he feels really proud and privileged to be at Arsenal, even though he obviously is the number 2 and he's not going to get much game time. I think he's still very, very happy to be at the club. And I think when he does get his chance, he will do everything he can to play as well as he can for us. So what about you then, Richard?
Well, yeah, pretty similar. I would get rid of Runarsson. I would just give him away for free if we have to, because he's obviously not good enough for us. Take the hit for £1 million that we paid. I would try to sign Matt Ryan on a permanent if we can, because I know it's probably be a free transfer anyway, but try to get him signed up. Obviously Leno would be number 1. And yeah, like you said, Andrew, we've got a couple of decent goalkeepers in the kind of youth system, haven't we, with a Okonkwo, you said, and that other guy. So we're pretty much covered there. That leaves us with 2 main goalkeepers and 1 young goalkeeper. So maybe if ever we're needed, or to sit on the bench in the Europa League. So yeah, I think it's a priority to get rid of Runarsson because he didn't even get on the bench in the last Europa League games we played, has he? So obviously he's not part of the plan. So we need to get him out and then and do everything we can to convince Matt Ryan to stay. Maybe you might need to play a couple more games. But yeah, I mean, I think potentially Matt Ryan's a better goalkeeper than Bernd Leno. Actually, I think potentially. I do think I agree with Mike. I think Bernd Leno's a good goalkeeper and he has improved with us, and he's one of our most important players. But I actually think Matt Ryan could potentially be a better goalkeeper than him. Actually, so it's good to have those 2 again, a bit like we had with Martinez before. 2 good goalkeepers that you can rely on when they're needed. And if Matt Ryan's needed, he's not going to let us down. And if Bernd Leno that's plays as well, he's not generally going to let us down either. So I think goalkeeping side looks pretty. If we get rid of Runarsson, I think that's looking a good position for us next season. I think we're healthy in that position certainly, and it's not going to cost us any money, is it? Because Matt Ryan will be free. So I think that's pretty much easy to solve that issue, isn't it? Really, let's just hope we can get Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I think so. I would probably, one thing I'd add on to this before I come to you, Chappers, as well, is I would probably be looking to get Bernd Leno signed up to a new contract as well, just to protect his value moving forward, because he's Matt Ryan is a similar age. I think correct me if I'm
Matt
wrong,
Ryan's
about
younger. He's a year younger, Matt Ryan.
yeah, they're similar though, aren't they? Within a year
Yeah.
or so, but about the 26, 27, 28 mark within that sort of region by come the summer. So, and I believe that Bernd Leno will be down to 2 years remaining, or 1 year remaining even.
2
But
years.
either way, either way, he would be worthwhile signing up to a new deal anyway, just to protect his future value moving forward. What about you then, Chappers?
Well, I would stick with Bernd Leno. I don't think that he's done anything particularly wrong. Obviously, he has his flaws. The playing out from the back thing has proved to be a little bit problematic for him. But having said that, if you remember, he was really, really terrible. He's making short steps in the right direction, I think. I think purely for cost reasons, I think, Rich is bang on with keeping Matty Ryan because he's going to be free, for sure. But actually, if money was no object, I'd actually be looking at a couple of other keepers. I know that they're looking at Raya from Brentford, but I don't think he's going to come up. I don't think he's going to come to it because in all likelihood they're going to go up. But they could well do a Brentford, I suppose. And I don't think he's going to be cheap anyway, should that happen. But the other keeper I've been keeping a bit of an eye on is the Fulham keeper, Areola, who I think is a superb goalie. He's a PSG player, but I don't know if he's got what it takes to kind of to break into the first team. And I think that if we're looking at somebody who would be happy to kind of play at a high profile club but play second fiddle, that might be another keeper that I would be prepared to look at and bring in. I have no idea what he would cost. Not sure what his cost. I have no idea how long his contract is. So, but I think he's a really tasty keeper. And go on.
I think he may be free in the summer. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think because we were linked with him last summer when obviously we ended up getting Runarsson, but we were linked with him then. I'm sure when we were that he was going to become free in the summer. I might be wrong. I haven't got the details in front of me, but worth having a look at.
For me, it's a no-brainer. I really think he's a superb keeper. I've nothing against Matty Ryan. He's a great goalie too. I don't agree with you there, Rich, but by saying that I don't think that he has the same ceiling as Leno. Mind you, who knows, because we haven't actually seen that much of him in an Arsenal shirt. But I just thought I'd chuck a spanner in the works there with Areola. As for the third keeper, it'd have to be Arthur Okonkwo because his name's so fun to say.
Yeah, it is very much so. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement there. Then, good thought though about Areola. It's, when I ever say that, I feel like a bit of a tit, but he's a good goalkeeper. Hey, I'm here all week. Right back. I have gone for a right back to sell Bellerin, keep Cedric. And bring in, and this is going to be a controversial one probably because there's lots of other names sort of flowing around. But I would bring in Matty Cash from Aston Villa. I really like him as a player, and I think he'd be not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. He'd be hard to prize away from Villa, but I really, really like him, and I think he's a good young player. He's got bags of pace, and he's exactly the type of right back that we are crying out for at the moment. He's dynamic. He's got a really good cross on him. Athletic. I think he can do everything we're looking for. Regards to the cost of bringing him in, I'm guessing, and I've looked on transfer marks, which is very, I don't really go by their prices, but he's down as around 27 million. So I've put down around the sort of the 30 to 35 million pound mark to get him in. I think we could probably get 20 to 25, minimum of 20 million for Bellerin, potentially 25. So we've got to make up a gap of around 10 million pounds potentially. But with his age, the fact that he's homegrown and the quality of player he is, I think he'd be a really good choice, personally. I mean, you may not agree, but I would like to bring him in. But as a third choice, we've also got Chambers to fall back on. We've also got Ozai Tutu in the reserves, who's been quite successful on loan as a fourth choice, which would be very unlikely to have to fall back on. And we've also got Zach Swanson as well in the under 23s, who's doing quite well. So I think with those three, I mean, Cash, Cedric, and a third choice of Chambers, I think we're pretty well covered there. So, Mike, what do you think on that?
Well, okay, yeah, I would get rid of Osei-Tutu. His contract's up in the summer, so he'll be going for free. He's at Cardiff, I believe, right now, and actually he's been playing more as a right winger, certainly abroad.
Yes, yeah,
than he has been as a right back. And I haven't seen enough of him to make a true judgment, but I do know that the players that I've chosen I prefer. So the other one, the big one, is Bellerin. I value him as a person. I value him as a 7 out of 10 fullback. And I think he's a better defender. A lot of people say he's a better attacker than defender. I disagree. I think he's a better defender than an attacker. But I'm just, for many, many years, I've been over Hector Bellerin running down the right wing, being given the ball and then being submissive with it when he used to be a right midfielder as a youngster, and he has more opportunities to beat a man than most because he has a lightning burst of pace, or he did, and he still isn't slow, is he? So I just he's bothered me too much over the years. I think Arsenal deserve a player that isn't as submissive as Bellerin is willing to take on his fullback. Of course, Bellerin's strength is off the ball, but you know what? If I played for Arsenal, Andrew, I would make sure that I stayed behind a practice on a daily basis until I developed a trick or two and a way to beat the guy, the left back, that I'm up against every single week for over 50% of the game. So I think Arsenal deserve better. So Bellerin, I've stuck a 30 million tag on him, and I'm fully understanding that it may be less and it could be a loan because of the situation we're in, but we just don't know. So, and I've brought in Tariq Lamptey, and my reasoning here isn't just because Arsenal are after Tariq Lamptey. I hope it's okay to say that I feel like I identified him when he was back at Chelsea as somebody who makes a difference. And here's my main point, I guess I want to make about the right back situation. I think everybody would agree that Kieran Tierney is a threat going forward and a very good defender. He's both. So, to me, if you want to move forward as a team, you've got to make sure that you give your opponent trouble coming from both sides. If they're going to slide across tight and compact on Tierney's side because he's such a threat, because they can do that because Bellerin and Cedric maybe aren't quite as much, that hurts the team. So I think what you have to do as a coach is that you have to balance that, and you have to make sure that your guy on the right is as much of a problem for them as the guy on the left. And to me, I don't see a right back in world football that is the sort of player that the coach has no option but to talk about and take care of in the locker room, pre-game and on the practice field. And here's the other piece of that, is if you've got inverted wingers, Pepe, Saka, and you've got those guys on the right, they're wanting to come in on their left foot more than go outside. So, you know, you need a player who's going to attract attention. So when Lamptey goes on the outside, somebody has to go with him because that guy is dangerous. So he would also be a help to Pepe maybe more than Saka, because Pepe needs the distraction because he attracts the crowd. So that's my signing there. Cedric, I would keep hold of. I think he's done fantastically well. Congratulations to him for being called up for Portugal again. And I'm like you, Andrew. I would debate it over David Luiz and Callum Chambers. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I have kept Callum Chambers because he can do three things. I actually think that he, much like it was mentioned that Matty Ryan might end up being a better goalkeeper than Leno. I don't disagree with that necessarily. I also think Callum Chambers could end up being one of our starting two centre-backs. He certainly was our best player before he got injured. He was doing fantastically well. And I think Arsenal, if they have a 5'2" right-back, which is about what Lamptey is, they need to have the option, much like we used Chambers against Burnley, right? We needed a more physical, taller guy who was going to deal with the aerial threat. So I feel like keeping a hold of him so he can play right back, centre back, and then defensive midfield if absolutely needed. Makes sense. The only other thing I'd mention was I did consider Hakimi Ashraf, who might be the best right back in Europe, who's now Inter Milan, been at Dortmund, Real Madrid. I think he's a wonderful player, but I went for Lamptey because I think he's frightening, and I think he attracts attention. I think Arsenal need that.
Just before we move on to you, Richard, I mean, of course, I really ummed and ahed about Tariq Lamptey. The reason I went for Matty Cash is because in terms of style, I think he's very similar to Tierney. I'm not saying at the moment at all he's anywhere near as good as Tierney, but in his style and sort of physicality, he's very similar, and I think he could turn out to be a similar player. Lamptey, he makes me think every time I see him that he's much more of a wing back than a right back in a four. And that's the only drawback for me. He's very, very slight of stature, which is not a problem, not too much of a problem. Bit of a concern about in a similar way to Tierney, about his injuries at the moment as well. But I can overlook that. But he really impresses me in the sort of the right wing back position. And I've heard it said a number of times, and I do agree that he doesn't look quite so good in the back four. That's the slight drawback for me. Hence why I think that, because I totally agree with what you said about having similar right back and left back, and I do believe whenever I've seen Cash that he is that sort of similar player to Tierney, quite an old-fashioned right back, but with bags of pace, power, good crosser, and he doesn't sort of dwell on the ball too much. He doesn't try and do anything flash in a similar way to Tierney. So that's why he convinces me a little bit more long-term in that sort of role. But that's only, I don't disagree with anything you said, really, Mike, either. I do really love Lamptey as a player. Richard, what's your thoughts on that position?
Yeah, I mean, not massively different. I would get rid of Bellerin, yeah, because I think we can get some half-decent money for him. I also would get rid of Chambers as well. He's got a year left on his contract, so I don't think he's quite at the level that we need to move forward. I would sell him for while we can get what we can for him. We're not going to probably get an awful lot, I don't expect. I mean, funny enough, the two right backs I'd written down to bring in were actually Lamptey and Cash. Those are the two that I think either of those two I'd be happy with. I think they would fit into the way that we play, and I think they're both better than what we've currently got with Bellerin and possibly Chambers as the two. Obviously, I'll keep Cedric as well. In fact, Cedric at this moment in time would be the number one in that position. But obviously, we're looking to strengthen the squad for next season. So yeah, I would say either of Lamptey or Cash I'd be happy with either of those two. I think Lamptey's maybe a little bit easier to get because of Brighton's situation in the league. I think Aston Villa are likely to finish above us. They could be in Europe. We might not be. Might be difficult to prize Matty Cash away from Villa. But out of the two, I think Lamptey's more likely. But yeah, I mean, another player who's kind of caught my eye, maybe for his versatility, almost like a replacement for Callum Chambers, would be Mason Holgate, because he can play right back or centre back, a bit like Chambers. He's better, more mobile, better in the air. He's a better footballer. Again, would we be able to prize him away from Everton when there could be in the top four? So I don't know, but he's another player that's caught my eye quite a lot because of his versatility in the back four, and he can play right back in the back four. He can play centre back in the back four or in the back three. He's very versatile, and he's basically the sort of player that a lot of people seem to think Callum Chambers is when he's not. Mason Holgate's the one that would be a massive upgrade in that position. But if we sold both Chambers and Bellerin, we may be able to get somebody like Holgate and Lamptey, and that would be great. We've improved the squad without spending a lot of money, which would be perfect.
I totally agree with you. I've got a concern about buying players out because you've got another great suggestion on previous podcasts about a certain centre forward that plays for Everton as well. The worry I've got with getting players from them is they're obviously bankrolled now by Usmanov, who used to be with ourselves, and we chose to go down a different direction. And I think he'd be so determined to make Everton better than Arsenal now and bankroll them. So whether he'd sell to us, I don't know. But a really good option, actually. Mason Holgate's one that I hadn't actually thought of, but I agree with. One thing about Bellerin, quickly before I move on to you chappers as well, is that it's been widely reported that last summer he wanted to go, but he was persuaded by Arteta to give us another year, and then he gave him his word that he would sell him this coming summer. There's nothing that I've read that's it's gone against that. I firmly believe that is the case. So, in some ways, I'd be quite happy to keep Bellerin because of he's Arsenal through and through. However, I do think he believes it's time to move on as well as a lot of us fans as well do as well. So, what's your thoughts, chappers, on that situation?
Do you know what? I've just done that thing where I've touched something and then I don't know how. No, hang on. No, it's all right. There I am. That was lucky. Jeez, right. What's my hair? Where are we? We're all right. Yeah, it's. I'm not too. Yeah, it's really not too different. I put down Tariq Lamptey as well. I put and also the fact that Bellerin ought to be sold. Owing to what you just said, actually, Andrew, with regards to the rumours that he was going to be sold, and I think he probably needs another challenge. I also think that actually quite a large defining factor of him kind of choosing, or maybe a factor, should we say, of him choosing to move on would be the treatment that he's got from a lot of people, from a lot of the so fans this year. He's come back from what would have been 10, 15 years ago, a career-ending injury. It's taken him a while to get back. He's still not at his best, and he may never will be at his best, but he does have that. He has the experience to be able to still be effective on the field, albeit he's not as consistent as he perhaps could be. So I think, it makes sense to sell him. From an investment point of view as well. God knows how much it's going to cost to prize Tariq Lamptey away. I think he's going to be on everyone's radar. But yeah, he would be. I have sort of had very saucy dreams about he and Pepe down the old right hand side. So he would be my number one choice. Again, I'm fully on board with the Cedric thing. He's really surprised everybody, I think, this season, hasn't he? Just with the way that he's performed. So yes, good for him. And I'm going to keep Callum Chambers too, purely for his versatility. Let's not forget that as well as being a right back and a centre back, he can also play defensive midfield as well when called upon. He's certainly had some good games when he was on loan at Fulham. So and also, he has got some pretty decent hair, hasn't he? So that kind of swung it for me. The Chambers hair, Callum Rooms, as we like to call him in our in one of the many Arsenal chats that I'm in. So yeah, those three are my right back options. It's not the most exciting because you guys have sort of said something very similar, but yeah, there it is.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, just very good points. I'm going to come to you first next time to give you a bit more of an opportunity, chappers.
That's all right, mate.
The left backs.
Yeah, no problem. Mine's easy, mate. Mine's easy. So
my left back choices are probably going to surprise some people. Tierney, clearly number one. I personally think he's become the best left back in the league. Myself, I don't think there's anyone really that could match him at the moment. I was really, really torn on what to do there, and I've come up with a plan that probably people will laugh at and think I'm mad. But we've got an issue in the summer with Kolasinac coming back from loan, and he's got a year left on his contract when he does.
Don't say it.
Yeah, his value is nothing. Let me finish. His value is going to be nothing. If we get 5 million for him, great. I'll take it. But I don't think we will. He's got a year left on his contract. I don't think there's going to be many people coming in to queue around the block to buy him.
The wages as well, isn't it?
Exactly. As a point I was going to say. I'm tempted just to let him run his contract down for a year and have him as a backup left back, personally, to save that problem. And we've also got Saka that can play there. And because we've got so many talented players up front, I would not want to play Saka there. But if we were desperate, we could. And he could. That would mean that one of the other players could just slot in up front as well. So that I would actually do that, because I don't think we're going to get any money for him. I think we waste a lot of time trying to get him out all over Europe again. And I just think we just suck it up and let him run his contract down and have him as the backup left back, personally. We've also got a couple of other talented youngsters as third or fourth choice. Fourth or fifth choice, actually, after Saka. Chalaji Bola and Joel Lopez as well, who are in the under 23s. I don't think they're good enough quite this at the moment to come into. In fact, I think Bola could probably do with leaving the club now, if I'm honest, because he's 22. Now, he's not a young kid anymore, and it's highly unlikely he's going to get into the first team. But at the moment, they're still under contract. Lopez is a very, very good player, Spanish left back, but he's not quite ready yet. But he's also fourth or fifth choice, potentially for Europa League ties and stuff like that. He could slot in as well in extreme emergencies. But yeah, I know that all of you are probably going to completely disagree with what I just said, but I think we could be spending an awful lot of time trying to hawk him around and without any luck in the summer, whereby for the money we could get, is it worth it? I personally really don't think it is. I really don't think it is. So might as well just make the most of it. Chappers, I'll go to you first this time, so you're not getting the last.
Yeah. Well, I was, when you're talking about Kolasinac, actually, I did have a thought, which was that he can also double up as Mikel's bodyguard, couldn't he? That would be pretty decent. He's quite hard, so that is a thought. But no, in all seriousness, no, not for me, mate. Not for me. I think if we can get 5 million for him, let's take it. We are going to need all the money that we can to boost the coffers. I like what you're saying about Joel Lopez. I mean, I don't keep a massive eye on what's happening in the under 23s and stuff, but from the bits and bobs that I have gleaned, I hear that Joel Lopez is coming along quite nicely, ticking along quite nicely. I've no idea if he's ready for the first team or not, but it would be amazing if we could promote another guy from the under 23s representing the old Hale End academies. But no, I've so here are my three choices for left back. Anyway, I've gone for Kieran Tierney, and Kieran Tierney. My idea was actually, instead of buying a left back, what we should do is we should build a cloning lab at the stadium, okay, and just clone Kieran Tierney. Because even if we've got 3 Kieran Tierneys that we can use, okay, we can also clone more Kieran Tierneys and sell them on. Although, that would kind of give our rival a Kieran Tierney.
If we had 11, I reckon we'd win the league. 11 Kieran Tierney, I reckon we'd win the league.
Quite right. So yeah, no, I'm kidding, but actually, it did get me thinking along the lines of, well, you need kind of left backs that can learn from each other, and who better to learn from each other than 1980s children's comedy duos? So I go for either Keith Harrison Orville as second and third choice, or the Cranky as second.
What about Hale and Pace? Because that comes in with Hale End as well. Hale End Pace.
That's very, very true. But they weren't really for kids, though, were they?
Well, they weren't for anyone, to be fair.
Yes. Orville would have to shed a few pounds, obviously. Keith Harris would have to, be alive.
It's about the same height as Lamptey, though, Orville, to be fair. Probably got the same length leg.
But I did think, I was thinking about actually Newcastle, and that they are having a terrible, torrid time of it at the moment, and I'm pretty convinced that they're going to go down, and I think a solid left back backup would be. Oh no, he plays right back, doesn't he? No, he doesn't. Yes, yeah, no, yeah, that's right. No, who plays left back? Is it Aarons or Lewis?
No,
Lewis.
Jamal Lewis, yeah.
And he's absolutely dreadful. Honestly, he's dreadful.
Really?
He's not done. I think he's dreadful.
I thought he played really, really. I haven't seen him much this season, but I thought he played really, really well for Norwich last year.
He did. He's not taking it to it. In fact, you know Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast. He knows the family really well. He does rate him very highly, but he's not had a good season with Newcastle. It's a bit of a risk to say it's just the club. He's not a good fit for the club, etc., etc.
Yeah,
but he was taking, catching the eye when he was at Norwich.
He was excellent at Norwich last season. But so you'd rather have Orville over Jamal Lewis, then, would you?
I'd probably rather have Haylen Pace than Jamal Lewis for what he would cost. Yeah.
Did you know that actually Gareth Hale, Gareth Hale, the one with the moustache, he actually did used to be a PE teacher, so he could be quite useful. Although he's probably sort of into his early 60s by now. So. It's a fine balance, isn't it?
I really appreciate those shout outs. Richard, good comment on the screen from Shane about Ainsley as well. Obviously, is he not in the 25? How much could we get? Blah, blah, blah. Well, obviously, I'm absolutely certain Ainsley's going to come into the conversation before too long. So what's your thoughts about left back?
Well, yeah, I mean, left back is the one area of the team above anywhere else. I think that we need someone else in the squad, because Kieran Tierney is the only first team left back that we've got. I know Cedric's played there a couple of times and done all right, but I think we need to get somebody as cover. Now, the problem is the left backs that I like, for example, Luca Dina, Everton. He's not going to come to Arsenal as backup to Kieran Tierney. I would be amazed if he did, or anybody of that level. So I'm thinking maybe someone a little bit older we can get maybe on the cheap, maybe for free, such as Bertrand from Southampton, be good cover, good in the squad, or possibly Ender Stevens at Sheffield United. They're about to go down. He's got experience. He could come in and do a job. Tierney's going to play most games, and we just need somebody who can do a job for maybe 5, 6 games, 10 games at the most in the season. So, I would say one of those two, Bertrand or Ender Stevens, could be a good shout just as a squad player, because it's going to be difficult to get somebody. Yeah, but I think both of those two are better than Kolasinac defensively, certainly. Kolasinac is, like we said before about playing wing backs, I think Kolasinac is a not bad wing back, but he's not a left back in the back four. Not at all. He's terrible.
I totally agree. I've just got a feeling we're going to be stuck with him, and if we are for a season, that's the whole headache I've been having. Do you know what I mean? I've been taking it a bit too seriously. I honestly think we're stuck with him.
I agree that we may well be stuck with him, but I'm sure we'll be able to get rid of him, even if we give him away on a free or something. We could get him out off the books, I reckon. He's an experienced player at the end of the day. He's probably well suited to the German league. I'm pretty sure someone in Germany would probably take him. So I would be looking at somebody else as that cover for left back. I'll say if we can get Bertrand, will be free. His contract's up. I'm not sure about Stevens. I think he might have a year left, but if they get relegated, he's probably going to leave. I would imagine if Arsenal came in for him, and I wouldn't have thought he'd cost a lot. I think he's 30 nearly. So, but as cover, I mean, Kieran Tierney is the future, isn't he? So we don't need to worry too much about it to get a first team player in. We just need cover for him, don't we, really? There are a couple of younger players in the youth setup that can also be in the squad, as we know. But yeah, I would. Luca Dean would be my first choice, but I can't see any way we'd get him. So I would look at Bertrand for free or or Stevens as the backup and get rid of Kolasinac if we can. And if we can't get rid of him, like you said, then he's there and he's in the squad. Well, he's still in the squad, isn't he? We can still use him in the League Cup or in the Group Europa League games and stuff like that, But I'm sure we could offload him if we need to. I'm pretty sure we could and get somebody in.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to name him in the squad. This is the only thing. If we were going to use him, he'd have to take a place. So
we could do a Socrates with him, I guess, and just not name him at all.
Yeah, well, this is what I mean. It's
wages again, they're clogging up the wage bill. So yeah,
and that's the only downside of even giving him away on a free is his wages. I think this summer's going to be really, really tough, really tough. So that's the headache I've been sort of thinking over. Of course, I want another good player to work alongside Kieran Tierney. Of course I do, but I just sort of genuinely think that we'll have him for another season, Kolasinac. Mike, what's your thoughts on the left-back position?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm selling Kolasinac. I put down 5 million, but again, that's going to be the high end, isn't it? It's more likely going to be a loan. Of course, he could stick it out. I would opt for getting rid of him for maybe not the sherbet or the other sweets I talked about. Maybe a tin of quality street with lots of strawberry creams in. We could switch him for a tin of those. I love those. But here we go. I've got an option for Arsenal for a left back, and the guy that I've chosen. Here's the deal that I've cut. So Stuttgart have got Mavropanos, right? And I debated whether we should bring him back. I think that he needs to prove his fitness. I've been watching him a lot this season. He's done very, very well, and I think he's going to be the future for Arsenal. So I say that we do a deal with Stuttgart where we let them keep Mavropanos for another season. We loan out Reece Nelson to them to get their left wing back, who can also play left back. He's a Croatian guy called Borna Sosa. And after much scouting, I do all the scouting for the Le Grove blogs that I have to do as well. This guy is very similar to Tierney. I was looking for a replica. I know you can go for somebody that's different, so you bring on another guy that adds something different to the mix. But in this situation, with Arsenal becoming very much a coached team with passing patterns and such, I think it's better for the other players if you have a player who's similar to Tierney. And this guy might even be better at crossing than Kieran Tierney, and he certainly has more assists. He's got about 7.
Wash your mouth out, Mike. Please wash your mouth out. That's not going to be the case, is it?
I'm telling you, in the Bundesliga, this guy has about 7 or 8 assists at least this season, and he is very, very good. And he's, I think he'd be attracted by a move to Arsenal. His name is Borna Sosa, Croatian left back for Stuttgart. So maybe Tierney and Sosa would be my two. I'll leave it there.
No. Great shout. I'll keep my eyes open for him. It's a new one on me. Don't know anything about the lad. So apparently we are, the name escapes me. I'm not even going to try but there's the centre half that's playing alongside Mavropanos. We are apparently in talks for him as well, which is a bit strange considering we've got Mavropanos who plays alongside him. But I think we might end up having a team of Stuttgart players at Arsenal at some point.
I think that guy's at Frankfurt, Andrew. I think he's at Frankfurt. He's called Evan Ndicka. I think he's a Frankfurt player, but I could be wrong.
I'll probably, yeah. No, actually, you may be right there. I may have got that completely and utterly wrong. But yeah, you might be right. That name does ring a bell. Right, we're going to move on to the centre-backs now, which I think is going to be a bit more contentious as well. I've gone fairly straightforward, if I'm honest. Gabriel, I think, is our best centre-back. Mari, very close behind, if not sort of alongside. I'm definitely going to be sticking my neck out and giving Saliba a chance next season. I really, really want to see him in the team. And this is the one I know, again, I'll probably get a load of stick for, but I'm going to keep hold of Holding in as not as a first-choice player, but a squad player, again, someone that's probably more happy to be in the squad as sort of 4th or 5th choice. I think he's very settled. He's getting better all the time. He's got a lot of years left in his legs because not only is he still young, but he's obviously lost a year or so of of playing, but he's coming back to his best, in my opinion. And I think he's a very good player to have in reserve. I'm also keeping hold of Chambers as well, which I know, again, a lot of people will not agree with me on, but I do rate Chambers. Again, I don't think there's many better quality players that will be happy to be a squad player around. I think he's a solid player. He always gives his all in any position he plays in, whether that be centre back, right back, or central defensive midfield. He can also play in a back three. Very versatile, but he's never really let us down, in my opinion. Anyway, I do like him as a player. And we've also got a player whose attitude I absolutely adore. I think he's got so much potential. And it's Mavropanos is another one, but I don't know what to do about Mavropanos. I really don't. I haven't included him in my squad, but he's having a great season. Really is. But Mark McGuinness, I really like. I haven't seen an awful lot of him play because he's been out on loan, but he's been doing really well on loan. He's had his injury breaks this season as well, but his attitude is just spot on. He reminds me of a really young sort of Tony Adams coming through the academy, with the way, not only because of his style, but I think he's probably a bit more adept on the ball than Adams was at his age. But he's already come out and said that I want nothing more than to emulate my mates Saka and Smith Rowe by coming into the team and really grabbing my chance and not letting go once I get it. And he really wants it to come through and break through at Arsenal. But he has got the ability to do that, I think. But it's whether he will get the chance. So I'd like to see him in the Europa League squads, maybe, and maybe the Carabao Cup squads. And I mean, the game I saw him most recently in was during the lockdown against MK Dons when he scored that lovely header. I don't know if you remember, if you watched that game. Again, it was only against MK Dons, but I thought he played really well in that game. And he's getting rave reviews. So, I mean, Ballard is not far behind him. And we've also brought in Omar Rekik, but he's not even, last time I checked, I don't think he'd even made his under-23 debut. There's something strange going on there. So I don't think he's ready by any stretch of the imagination. But I was really toying about David Luiz because I think he's having a really good season, and whether to give him that one more year and then potentially see whether he would join the coaching staff. But I decided to be really ruthless and just say no, enough. We just have to cut the ties. And if we're gonna move forward and have this new Arteta revolution, you can't do it half-heartedly. You've got to do it properly and, rip those band-aids off, how much they hurt initially. And I would just drop him out of the squad, say, big thank you to him, because I think he has done really well. But I would really put my faith in Saliba personally, and really sort of look to the future. So there you go. And I'll go back around the other way this time again, Mike, and to see what your thoughts are on that and your choices of the centre-back.
Yeah, so starting with the loans, I'd keep McGuinness and Ballard out on loan. I think they would just get lost in the shuffle, and I think they need to play to prove that they might be good enough another season out on loan. David Luiz was maybe my biggest struggle when I picked this. I feel very torn on this because he has... for 7/8 of the season, he's been not just good, he's been very good. And I trust Arteta on this. He's got a lot of good options. And I trust Arteta mainly because he's improved our centre-backs more than any other area of the field. I mean, a year ago, we were saying we didn't have any good centre-backs and that Saliba was going to have to be our godsend. And that has proved to be not true. And he's worked with them, made it to where we don't really mind whoever is chosen at centre-back. I hope I'm speaking for the masses. I think I am. And so I wanted to leave it as is, but I wanted to move on from David Luiz. And that's something I'm not totally settled on. But I've got 5 centre-backs. It's the same 5 centre-backs that Andrew has got. Bring back Saliba. I actually don't think the club will do that. I think Saliba's probably told the club he's done. But that's what I would do. I'll bring Saliba back. And I would bleed him in slowly. I've actually been wanting to see Gabriel Marie as our main centre-back pairing. I think they're our best two defenders, and I haven't seen them together to know if it would work. But and then some people say to me, well, they're both left-footed, and then I say to them, well, most centre-back pairings that have ever played the game together were both right-footed, so I'm not sure that it really matters that much. But so anyway, I'd love to see Gabriel Marie keep Saliba, Chambers,
Totally agree.
keep Chambers and Holding. So there's 5 right there, and so David Luiz would move on for free. But I'm torn on that. I'm very torn. I've already got rid of Bellerin. Now I'm getting rid of Luiz. I'm about to get rid of another senior leader that you'll find out about coming up here. And so, as somebody who coaches myself, I know that you've got to have leadership, but I suppose I'll talk about that more a little bit later.
Yeah, no, I basically carbon copy, because I was really umming and ahhing about Luiz. I really, really was, because I do like his attitude. I like him as a person. And he's obviously, I like him as a player this season as well. I've always liked him as a player, even when he was at Chelsea. I hate to say it, but I've always loved that kind of player who plays the way he does. And I don't know who it was. I heard it on a podcast, so forgive me for not remembering who it was that said it, but I totally agree. I heard that he is a footballer that happens to play in defence. He's not like a central defender. He's a proper good footballer that just plays in that position. And, I like that about him. I know he makes mistakes, and no one gets more angry than me when our players make stupid mistakes. But I don't think he's made that many recently, if I'm honest. But I take the rough with the smooth with players like him. And in a similar way, at the other end of the pitch, that's the reason why I like Pepe, because he's flawed. He's a bit of a flawed genius, and I like that type of player. And like I say, you have to take the rough with the smooth. So, Richard, what's your thoughts on the whole centre-back situation?
Yeah, I mean, just picking up on Mike's point there about 2 left-footed centre-backs. I know a lot of centre-back partnerships are both right-footed, but I'm left-footed myself. And I don't know many left-footed people that are comfortable playing as a right-sided centre-back, whereas a lot of right-footed players are more comfortable playing in the left-sided centre-back position. I don't know why that is. It just seems to be what I've found from my own experiences of playing football and stuff like that. You don't get many left-footed centre-backs or left-footed defenders that play either as a right-back or as a right central defender, just because, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work as well. So I'm not sure if Gabriel Amari would work. It'd be nice to see it tried, but I'm not convinced it would work on the same basis that two right-footed defenders can work together. I think it's slightly different. I think it's easier for a right-footed, as we've seen with Cedric, I think it's easier for a right-footed player to play on the left than it is for a left-footed player to play on the right anywhere on the pitch. Apart from maybe,
thinking, Richard, that maybe with the world of these inverted wingers everywhere, not just at Arsenal, that when let me get this right, when a right-footed left winger cuts inside, as he's more likely to do, he's on the favourite foot of the centre-back now. So, because we're in a different world now. So that was my thought.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I'd like to see it tried to see how it does work and how they complement each other. But quite often with centre-backs, I think you need to know your role. And if they're used to playing on the left, they're going to naturally drift to the left, maybe more so than they should sometimes. And it could pull them out of position. I'm not sure, but I'd like to see that works. I mean, in terms of the centre-backs, obviously I'd keep Gabriel, I'd keep Mari. I would offer David Luiz another year. I don't know if the club have offered him, but I would try to keep him for another year. I think his experience is vital. I would actually call back Mavropanos from loan and have him in the squad next season. I'm sure he could get games. I think he's good enough. He looked good enough before. He had a few injury issues. He's gone on loan and done well. I would sell Holding because I don't think he's good enough. I would also get rid of Saliba because if he's not been given a chance so far, I don't think he fits in with the plans. And I agree with Mike. I think he's probably not going to want to stay anyway. So I think we could get a few quid for him because he's young. We paid quite a lot of money for him. So I would clear out him. Obviously, Chambers, I already said I would get rid of as well. In terms of central defenders coming in, I mean, with Gabriel Mari, David Luiz and Mavropanos, we've got 4. I think that's a decent centre-back kind of group. I would maybe look at, if David Luiz didn't stay or if he wasn't offered a contract, then I'd maybe look at someone with a bit of experience who's got Premier League experience as well. A player that I would maybe look at could be Vestergaard at Southampton. I think he's a decent defender as a squad player. You know, to come in if David Luiz went a bit of experience. He's got obviously he's a tall defender as well. He's good in the air. He could do maybe a job for us as a squad player, but I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about it. If we've got, say, Gabriel Mari, David Luiz, and Mavropanos, I think we've got 4 centre backs. Any partnership of which, you know, the partnerships would have to work. I think Gabriel and David Luiz at the moment is our best pairing. But yeah, I mean, and then work with what we've got, and that would probably be enough. We've got a couple of younger lads, as you said, you know, maybe keep one of them at the club, maybe loan the other one out, maybe get McGuinness back and loan out the other one. We've got Rekic as well, don't forget as well, who we just recently bought in. So he'll be in the squad, wouldn't he? I guess, anyway.
Like I said, he's not even played an under-23 game yet for some reason.
No, yes. No.
Really odd. Really odd.
I mean, I really wanted him, didn't he? And he kind of made sure that we got him in January. So
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's just a bit strange.
I think he'll be in the squad possibly. And I think the money that we could maybe raise from selling Holding Chambers and Saliba would be able to fund anything that we need to buy. But actually, if we're clever, we wouldn't need to buy a centre-back. We can use what we've got, get Mavropanos back. The money that we make from them defenders, we can then use elsewhere in the squad, which is more urgently to be sort of improved. I don't necessarily think defensively, the central defensive positions we need to improve on much with what we've got. No. Getting rid of Holding and getting rid of Chambers would mean that there's a little bit short in numbers, but Chambers hardly plays. He's played 1 game this season, so he's not a big loss in the squad. Holding, if we've got Mavropanos back, I think Mavropanos is an upgrade, so we've covered there. And I say if David Luiz does go, we would need to look at someone else. But if he stays, then I'll be happy with what we've got. And I say look at getting the money in for the one that we sell to put into other areas of the squad, which is probably more vital for next season.
No, good points. Really good points. So not a lot there. I mean, one defender I am denied about, if they get relegated, as a sort of again a squad player only, would be that Jamal Lascelles from Newcastle. I quite like him as a player, and I think not as a starter, but I think he's got good leadership qualities, good Premier League experience. I think he's actually a good player. So he'll be a fairly good cheap option if they did get relegated.
I mean,
but again, I don't think we.
Brighton got relegated.
Yeah, well, he's starting to get that to the age whereby I don't think he'd want to be a standby. I think he's definitely his late 20s. I don't think I think he'd be wanting to play football, first team football somewhere. I'm not sure.
You know, I mean, if David Luiz was to go and we needed to get someone in to replace David Luiz in the squad, Luis Dunk would maybe do that because David Luiz plays most weeks anyway now, doesn't he?
Exactly, he'd be ideal. I mean, I really like him as a player, mate. Like I just said, I don't know whether he'd come to be a sort of a rotational player or backup player. That's the only thing at his stage of his career. What about you, Chappers? What's your thoughts there?
Just smash my elbow, mate. I'm gonna have to be on the old treatment table for a couple of weeks on that. After that one, I think. We're still on centre backs, aren't we? Right. Yeah. Well, I've got something. The first thing I'm going to say is that I'm actually really, really surprised that quite a lot of you have been sort of quite pro Luiz, because I did think to myself, I made the decision to keep David Luiz, and I really thought that I would get absolutely shouted down, but I really think that, yeah, as you guys have said, he's really improved a lot and hit a bit of form. For me, it makes absolute sense. I mean, you guys are sort of saying, whether he gets another contract or whether he wants to stay. But he wants to stay. He loves playing for Arsenal, which is great, you know. And I have done a real turnaround on him this season, because I was absolutely, I'm sure, as you remember, Andrew, I was absolutely no, get rid. But
apart from his hair.
Apart from the hair, obviously. But he's really, really shown that he's a huge figure in the dressing room, and just a huge influence on the team, or both on the pitch and off it. And yeah, I have to just go, yeah, fine, yeah, we'll keep him. I really do think that it's beneficial for the team for us to do so. Gabriel and Marie, yeah, absolutely. I really hope that there have actually been in the background there. I really hope that there has been some since Saliba last spoke out, that there've been some bridges that have been built. That call me naive, but optimistic if you like. But I really want him to play for us, and I really want him to do well for us, and I really like the idea that perhaps Arteta is going to give him a chance. He cost a lot of money. He's great young talent. It all depends on the player, I guess. But it would be amazing to see him lining up for us next year. How many centre backs are we allowed to pick here? I've gone 6, but
there's not a specific rule on it. It's if you are looking after the squad. If you have an extra centre back in there, then you've got to have one player less somewhere else. So it's just one of those, really. But I think around 5 is more than enough, personally.
I actually think that I think we get rid of Holding. I think we get some money, and we get Mavropanos back. There, I've said it. I think that Holding is at a decent value at the moment. The less he plays, the more his value is going to decrease. And Mavropanos has proven to be quite useful. So I think we keep Mavropanos, get rid of Holding.
Fair play. That's absolutely fine. No problem at all. We move on to the central defensive midfielder position. I don't think it's going to come to any surprise that Partey is the one that is the first choice on the team sheet. Really, he's the one to sort of be built around in this particular role. The players that I've mentioned before, it's going to come as no surprise. I know exactly what Richard's going to say, and I think I've got a feeling I need to mute him for a minute or so. But we've got to move away, in my opinion, from Xhaka. I think that he's been here long enough to have made an impression, and I'm the first to admit when he plays well, just as much as I moan when he plays makes some mistakes, but he has been playing really well. But I genuinely don't think he's the player to take us to where we want to go. And when we're doing a rebuild, like I said earlier, you've just got to go for it. You can't do it half-heartedly. And he's one of the players that has been around for 5 years. And I know it's nothing to do with him, but since he joined, we've never qualified for the top 4 in the Champions League. And like I say, it's not his fault, but it's part of that period we need to move away from, in my opinion. And we need to sort of really take this chance to upgrade for the future. So I think I'd sell him. I mean, I'm very pessimistic again with my prices because, again, I just think this summer's going to be a nightmare. I think clubs all across Europe are going to look for loans or free signings rather than.
I was going to say, I think that's why it's a bad idea to sell Saliba, because I don't think we've got anything back on him. I think it makes more sense to keep hold of him. Anyway, we've moved on. So
no, exactly. And I mean, to your point about selling Holding and bringing in Mavropanos, I mean, it's the same thought process really as what I did, but the other way around. I mean, Holding has already got he's really well settled within the squad. He's got a lot of Premier League experience. So keep Holding and sell Mavropanos while his price is really, really high. Yeah, it's a tough decision, and no, there isn't the right one. It's just it's all about opinions. But I think Mavropanos' value has gone from right there to right up there because of the season that he's had. So it might be an ideal time to cash in on him. But yeah, I would sell. I put down 15 to 20 million for Xhaka. Now I would. That's really low, and I know that we should be aiming for more. But in this kind of climate, like I said, I'm erring on the side of caution. So that's what I would, absolute minimum, we would be looking to sell him for. But I would be looking to. There's a few choices. There's that are players that I like. I like Douglas Luiz. I like Yves Bissouma. I like Thomas Souček. The one right at the top of my list is, I know it's one that I've been banging on about for ages now, and I'm getting bored about it. But it's the AZ Alkmaar skipper, Teun Koopmeiners. The more I read about him and the more I see him, the more I like him. I just desperately wish that we were in for him. I know that we have made inquiries because, as I said, I've spoken to the guy that works for AZ Alkmaar. He knows the player personally. He knows his agent. And he knows that Arsenal have made contact in the past. But, I mean, look at this, right? This is this season. 26 appearances. Bearing in mind, he spent 16 of those 26 appearances have been as a central defensive midfielder. He's got 9 goals, 4 assists so far as a CDM. He's played 9 times as a central midfielder. He's got 4 goals and 1 assist. And he's played once as a centre-back and he's got 1 goal. So all in all, 26 appearances, 14 goals, 5 assists. I know it's the Dutch league, but that is very talented player. It's very good numbers wherever you're playing. He's got the stature. He's about 6'2", 6'3". Really quick, very athletic again. He will complement Thomas Partey's style of play superbly. One of them will be able to go forward, the other one will be able to sit back, and vice versa. He's deadly at with his head. He takes their free kicks, regularly bangs in free kicks. But the thing I also love about him is his attitude. He's I said this yesterday on Ryan's podcast. He's got the same sort of attitude as De Ligt from the Ajax before when he met. Remember that video that was doing the rounds? I think it was before their semi-final appearance in Champions League, where he was standing on a table addressing all those people when he was only 20, 21 at the time. De Ligt, and it's been widely said that this guy, Teun Koopmeiners, has got the same kind of attitude. He's been a captain for at least 2 or 3 years now, and he's only 22, 23 still.
Since he was 20, Andrew.
Excuse me. I think he's since he was 20 when he became captain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he's just turned 23, if I remember rightly. His value is around 15 million. I think if we could get him for 15 to 20 million pound, I mean, what a player for the future to replace Granit Xhaka with. I couldn't think of a better one, personally. I would like also then Miguel Aziz to be a regular part of the first team squad next season. He's got the talent, and I would want him to be the first reserve to sort of jump in at the end of Premier League games to play cup games. I really want to get him integrated. He needs to sign a new contract as a matter of urgency because it runs out in the summer. He is a really, really talented guy, and we cannot lose him. And I really want to see him in the first team squad next year. So they are my 3 alongside them. I mentioned Douglas Luiz. With the players which we'll come on to later that I'm going to look at selling. Hang on one moment. I need to... Apologies. We've got the room and the budget, and this is in an ideal world, to also buy Douglas Luiz. I would love to get him as well, if I possibly could, because he's only 21, 22. Not the finished article by any means, but I think that he's got a player of immense potential. I really like him. And, yeah, in an ideal world, I'd like to get Koopmeiners and Douglas Luiz. I'm going to go to you this time. I think I went to Mike first last time. We need to get a little bit of a move on to get through these, so we don't want to have a 2-hour show. Chapper, so what's your ideal for CDM?
Well, I just wanted to say, actually, with regards to the Koopmeiners thing, because you were saying, oh well, yeah, I know it's the Dutch league, but don't forget Steven Bergwijn came from the Dutch league. Oh yeah. Sorry.
A lot of great players have come from the Dutch league, mate. A lot of great players.
No, yeah, right, exactly. No, yeah, fair enough. I think keep Granit Xhaka for one more year. And my reasoning behind this is because I want to get I do want to get a new young central midfield player in who has those very similar qualities, but doesn't get caught flat-footed all the time. Has a bit more of an engine. Has an excellent passing range. And we were talking again about attitude. And I made a comment on Twitter the other day, which you also commented on. I really, really like the look of Boubakary Soumaré, who I think we were in for last year as well, with all the kind of party when all the party rumours were going on. Now, a lot of people are have said, well, he's too similar player to Partey, etc. But this is my reasoning behind keeping Xhaka. Is that if you've got Xhaka for another year and Soumaré sort of competing, sharing the same spot, then I think that their skill set is similar enough that they can sort of combine to make the super midfielder, the super party partner, if you like. I could be talking out of my arse here, but that's my hot take. Keep Xhaka for another year just for that kind of transition period, and to kind of get Soumaré used to the way of what his role should be with Partey. I think his passing range is amazing, and I also think he's not afraid to go forward and attack. And again, it's that whole kind of like sharing the duties with Partey. I think he would be fantastic for us. My next, so I've gone Partey, Xhaka, Soumaré. My next, my next choice will be a controversial choice, I'm sure, but I am willing to give Joe Willock another shot. I think that we should get him back on loan. I think he's done okay at Newcastle this year, but I just think we need a little bit of variety in midfield. And
this is in this CDM role in the defensive positions.
Sorry? Well, I'm just talking about in midfield. Shall we say?
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Just for specify. Yeah.
I suppose I'm using like a 4-2-3-1 formation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I'm saying so. I've got four midfielders there, and the fourth one is Willock. Just because I think that he offers something a little bit different, and he's got that kind of drive and that dynamic to shake things up a little bit, to grab things by the scruff of the neck a little bit. He's done all right at Newcastle this year, so that little bit of experience would serve him well. And I think, let's give him another year. Plus, we don't have loads of money. There you go.
Fair enough. Richard, on to you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Thomas Partey is the, like you said, building the team around him. I do think we need somebody in the squad who can fill in for Thomas Partey when he's not there, when he's not fit. He's not been very fit this season. That's a bit of a worry. I actually quite like the guy at Fulham, Anguissa. I think he's only on loan at Fulham, isn't he? I think he could be...
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, I think he could be a good player to come in. Basuma as well. I think he could be a good player to play either in place of Thomas Partey when he's not playing, or even alongside him possibly. I think they're quite similar, but either of those two I would be tempted to get. Of course, I'd keep Xhaka because he's been this season our best midfield player, and I think his experience. I mean, you're saying we've not finished in the top four when we've had Xhaka. We've not finished in the top four with Aubameyang, with Lacazette, loads of other players we've not finished in the top four either. So let's get rid of all of them, shall we, as well, and let's have no team and start again. If we're going to get rid of everyone that's not,
I wouldn't mind.
All the whole team. There's no one in this team that's got us in the top four, because apart from Bellerin, and everyone wants him gone. So, on that basis alone, I don't think that's the reason to be judging Granit Xhaka. I think Granit Xhaka, with his experience, is actually vital. To me, he's the captain of this team, whether he's got the armband or not. On the pitch, he's the captain of the team. And you don't get rid of him without replacing him with a player who can be captain on the pitch as well. And I think that we haven't got the money, as Chapper's just said, to do that. So I think we keep Granit Xhaka. We obviously keep Thomas Partey. I would get in, Anguissa, even possibly Lamina as well at Fulham. I think he's on loan as well. I think it was at Bournemouth. Player like that in the squad, somebody like that, Basuma, and Aziz as well, as bringing him in from the under 23s into the squad as well. And I think that we've got good options there. Bearing in mind Thomas Partey's hardly played, and that worries me. We do need some cover for him. It's more important than replacing Granit Xhaka at this moment in time. I think getting someone to cover for Thomas Partey is more important in his role and what he offers to the team, which is unique in our squad. We've got no one else like him, so that should be a priority. Replacing Granit Xhaka isn't a priority because we've got a couple of players who can come in and do that maybe similar sort of job. I'd get rid of El Neni, by the way, as well. I'd sell El Neni, and I would send Ceballos back where he's come from and pay for his plane ticket as well. So, I mean, Willock, I know he's more of an attacking player. I wouldn't take Willock back. I'd sell him to Newcastle because they love him and he's doing okay there. He's not good enough for us if we want to improve. Maitland-Niles as well, who's kind of a defensive midfield player in his head. I would send him somewhere else as well, sell him while we can, or somewhere else, because again, it's a player off the wage bill. It's money coming into the club. Torreira, don't forget Torreira and Guendouzi. Actually, I would keep Guendouzi. I'd get him back in the squad, and maybe sell Torreira. Although Torreira's a better player, Torreira
I forgot those guys.
Yeah, Torreira doesn't want to really be with us, does he? So, although he's a better player, if we could get him
down
back,
on my tail list, but that's one good thing. Sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry, Richard. Carry on. I do apologise.
I was just going to say, if we could get the Torreira back that we had when he first came for the first 6 months, I would have him back, but I don't think we will. I don't think he was ever settled in London, and I'm not sure. So I wouldn't bring Guendouzi back in the squad because I think he's versatile, and if he can sort his head out and get his attitude right, he can be a good player for us, actually. So everybody else I would sell or get rid of or loan out, whatever, and that would be it, with Aziz coming into the squad a bit more as well. And that's our defensive midfield area, I think, pretty well sorted out, actually, and that will take us forward in a good way, I think.
I'd love to see Guendouzi and Torreira under Mikel Arteta to see what he could do with them. If we could get the best of them, I think it could really work. I think that Torreira could actually be a great partner for Thomas Partey, but I don't think he would. Sure. Exactly like you said, I don't think he wants to come back. I don't think he's settled, and I think the bridges that ship has sailed. The bridge is burned. Yeah, so you're going to say something there, chappers?
I was just going to say that Guendouzi's gone on record just this week, hasn't he? Basically, sort of certainly trying to build bridges publicly by saying, when I go back to Arsenal, I'm going to give it all my all. And
he's been told that he's not got a future there. That's what's happened there. You know, honestly, I'll bet you £1 million he knows that he's not going to be kept on there. They're also in danger of being relegated, if I'm honest. But he's not done as well as we thought he was doing overall, I don't think. But I still like him. I still think he's a player there. But I think he's going to be doing his future because of his attitude. And also, I forgot about El Neni. Just quickly, El Neni, I just want to quickly say, in my thoughts, I think we've got exactly the same situation that I was talking about with Kolasinac. He's got a year left in the summer. Yeah. His actual transfer market value is £5 million. Honestly, I don't think it's worth selling him.
For him, isn't it?
Yeah, about that. It's not worth selling him for $5 million. I mean, even if it's less than $5 million, he's not on a lot of money. He's not on a lot of money at all. I think he's another one that's worthwhile just keeping around and let him go free next year because for the money you get for him,
loan him out for a season. Loan him out.
Is it worth it though? I mean, he's more worth having as a decent, come on in the last 15 minutes to keep things tight type of player for us than just getting rid of his small wages.
How can you, Richard? How can you sit there shaking your head? The fact that just callously wanted to get rid of
I don't think he's worth. He's not on a lot of money.
Beautiful man that is Mohamed Onan. He's just adorable. Leave him alone.
I honestly think it's worth keeping him for the last year, just letting him go on a free. I don't think the money we save on his wages or the money we'll get for him is worth it. I think it's worth just having him around. He's a very, very popular player. He always gives his all, doesn't he? I don't know. Anyway, I forgot to mention that. So I thought very similar sort of.
I'd give my all if I played for Arsenal, but I'm not good enough either.
No, I'm not saying he is, but we've got him. he's on a small wage in comparison to other players, and we're not going to get hardly anything for him. Let's face it. So it's one of those. It's one of those, really. I'm just trying to be practical. Right, Mike, what's your thoughts?
Okay, all right. Initially, I'm selling 6 and loaning 1. I'm selling Guendouzi. I don't think there's in a million years that Arteta is going to want him back in the squad. I think that's it for him. Torreira, I think, is in the wrong league, as is Danny Ceballos. I think that they're good players. I think they're in the wrong league. The English Premier League, I don't think suits them. I would toyed with this one like I did with David Luiz, but I'm selling Granit Xhaka because I want to have central midfielders that have a higher floor. And I know people talk about higher ceilings, and I want that too. But Granit Xhaka has a very, very low floor, meaning that the negative side is just too much of a hindrance when we come up against the very best teams, or sometimes even the average teams. The fact that he's not quick, the fact that he's got a hot temper.
Can I just get your permission to steal that for future reference? With that, he's got a low floor rather than a high ceiling. I just want your permission whilst I'm thinking about it. Thank you. Cheers.
Sure. But that's the thing with me. I think he's staying. I think he's going to get a new contract. I'm actually okay with that to a certain degree. But I also chose to sell Granit Xhaka because I don't think that he's going to be okay with being a rotational option. And I think that's where Arsenal are going. I think they're going to move him into a rotational position when they bring somebody more athletic in. And I just don't think that, having played every minute of every game and knowing what he's like, I don't think he's going to be cool with that. So I think he could turn out to be a problem in the dressing room. It's just my personal opinion. El Neni, I really like Mohamed El Neni, but my concern with El Neni is after his wonderful game at Old Trafford, he decided to pass backwards for another 3 months and became too negative. And I wish he wouldn't, because he's so technically secure. Don't think there's a necessity. Joe Willock, I think, is a wonderful player. And I was tempted to loan Joe Willock, but I think Joe Willock is a box-to-box midfielder in a 4-3-3. He needs to play in a 4-3-3 like Aaron Ramsey did and never got to do at Arsenal. And I think he would also be the midfielder that needs to get the goals for Arsenal. I just don't think we're going to play the 4-3-3. So I got rid of Joe Willock. Loaning out Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I'd like for him to make a smarter choice and go for a team that keeps possession of the ball rather than hits the ball over his head, like it's happening at West Brom. But I'm a strong believer in Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And moving on from him, the guys I've purchased, I wanted Maitland-Niles to be in the first team a couple of years ago as a central midfielder, because I think that he is the Swiss Army knife midfielder that Arsenal need. And when we signed Thomas Partey, I remember writing a blog about the first thing that we would want or notice when we signed Thomas Partey is we'd want his twin brother, because Thomas Partey, as we're all seeing, can do everything. And I don't want to go down the list. We've seen him play. I know his shooting's off right now, but he scored many goals for Atletico Madrid, and I think that'll clean up. And I see Ainsley Maitland-Niles that way, a player who's a Swiss Army knife player who's got the pace, the athleticism. We need modern athletic players to match up with the rest of the teams in the Premier League, and Arsenal don't have that beyond Thomas Partey. And I think that you'll find that that's exactly what the club are going to do, because Arteta and Edu have spoken about the need for having players with that kind of physical profile. So I made my criteria of purchases on players who can play with more tempo, have the ability to have pitches in their mind and can play 1 and 2 touch, offer belief to the players around them, like Thomas Partey, who raised Granit Xhaka's game. There's no doubt about it when he showed up and plays next to him. Guys who've got capabilities of scoring goals, because I think we scored 1 goal from central midfield this year. And flexibility. I think you'll find the future with Arteta is going to be not just forwards attacking players, but midfielders that the other team don't know who's playing DM, who's playing central midfield, and they can move around. So on to the players I've chosen. My first one is Aurélien Tchouameni. You may or may not have heard of him. He's Monaco's central midfielder. He is Thomas Partey's twin brother. I've been looking for Thomas Partey's twin brother because I know you may say, well, we need somebody different to complement. Well, if you've got the full skill set, you can pick out which school you want. So if Thomas Partey needs to be the defensive player, we know he can do that. We can also see him further forward as a central midfield player. And this guy can do the same thing. He actually looks quite like him as well. So, but he's a wonderful, wonderful young talent. The other one is Zambo Anguissa, same as Richard. Same thing. I want a Swiss Army knife player, a guy that can play quickly, who can break the lines on the dribble. He's got the most tackles and the most, running with the ball from midfield, I think, in the Premier League. Both of those statistics. And I wasn't aware of that till the other day. And I think if we could get him for about 25 million, what a wonderful player he is. And maybe the main one is Yves Bissouma, because Yves Bissouma encompasses everything I think that Arsenal need. Plays quickly, wonderful movement off the ball, positional sense, athleticism, everything that Arsenal need. And he might be actually my first pick if I was going to make my choice first, second, third. So there you go. There's 3 I've bought. Keeping Thomas Partey and promoting Miguel Aziz, who's a different kind of player, but more elegant, isn't he? I think definitely. Don't think the club are going to do that. I think they're going to loan him, sign a contract and loan him. But I think he's going to be a future midfielder for 5 to 10 years.
He's good enough. I think he's good enough to start playing for the first team now. Personally, he's 19. He's not like he's 16 or anything. He's wet behind the ears anymore. He's 19. I think he's grown a lot in the last 12 months as well in stature. He's got a lot of more muscle. But I think everything I agree with all that, and you know, what you other two as well said about the other players that you've mentioned. I still have to say, you know, all of the qualities that you've mentioned with all the other players, I still have to say Tayan has got all of those as well, and and the reason I sort of I like him so much as well is not only his age and the fact that what you said, Richard, really hit home. You can't sell Granit Xhaka and get rid of his leadership on the pitch without replacing it. That's what he's got over and above, I think, a lot of the other people we've been speaking about as targets to come in. He has got that in abundance. So we wouldn't be left quite so weak on the pitch with him around. I don't think he's the sort of person who will let anyone sort of slack that's playing on the same pitch as him. So I think he's a really good thing in his favour as well. Also, Bissouma, I totally agree with. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he may get priced. I think it's going to be a bit of a bidding war for him amongst the top clubs, and I think he might be priced out of our bracket. I think he'll end up probably going for more than Thomas Partey. We got with Thomas Partey for. And the thing is with Tayan Koopman is I'm pretty convinced we'll get him for under £20 million quite comfortably. So it would also leave an awful lot of money for the rest of the other acquisitions that we need.
Can I add a couple of other quick
and the goal scoring? I mean, his goal scoring speaks for itself that I mentioned earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to add just a couple more. There are some players that I consider that I think are worth thinking about. Gini Van Alden still hasn't signed a contract. He's free in the summer. And I think Arsenal needed better experienced players for a long time. And I think he's arguably the best experienced player in the Premier League in that category. I think Ryan Gravenberch at Ajax is probably going to go big.
I like him. I like him a lot.
Ricky Puig at Barcelona is if you wanted to have a more slight Santi Cazorla type central midfielder. But the two that I wanted to just touch on for a second, James Ward-Prowse, I think has so much value because he's the best in the Premier League at set plays, corners and free kicks. You get about a total of about 10 of those a game, and he's unmatched. And I think he's also a very good central midfielder. And here's a really interesting one. You guys can think about this. Barcelona are over $1 billion in debt. So somebody high profile has to be sold, if not 2 or 3 guys at Barcelona. And so I'm wondering if there's a way somehow to try and prize Frankie de Jong away, because I don't think there's a better central midfielder in world football in his category as far as being a ball player and the age that he's at. So
that totally depends on the manager. If they do end up keeping Koeman for any reason whatsoever, then he wants to build his team around him. If Koeman leaves and Xavi comes in, for example, which I think is less likely now because of their situation, then there's more of a chance, yeah. But I think he definitely wants to build his team around Frankie de Jong. Koeman does, but it depends. It totally depends what's going to happen with the managerial situation.
Yeah, I mean, when you say, though, that if you're $1 billion in debt, that there's a point comes where what you want is not going to be what you get because somebody's got to go. Just trying to take advantage there of their situation.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, Wow.
I've just seen that apparently Arsenal was supposed to be really interested in Sander Berg from Sheffield United.
Yeah.
He's a sort of defensive midfield player, isn't he? So maybe that's where the direction we're going to be going.
That's a new one on me. I'll have to be completely honest with you. I haven't heard that. So yeah, we'll. I know that we've been going on a little while. We have to sort of hurry up. I know you're in a bit of a time thingy yourself, aren't you, Chappers? So why don't you give us your attacking midfield options and your strikers in one segment before you go, mate?
I was just mentioning that in the private chat. It says, guys, do you mind if I fall quickly as have to go shortly? Shit quickly. Shoot quickly. FFS. There we go. That's predictive text for you. Okay. I'm very quickly. I'm just going to very quickly reel through these. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Martin Odegaard. We shell out some cash for him. Emile Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, Nicola Pepe, Gabriel Martinelli. And the reason is because I think they're all good.
What a great reason that is.
In all honesty, I don't think there's a massive amount that we need to do to tweak our attack at this point. I think perhaps it's time for Lacazette, for us to cash in on Lacazette. It would be maybe it might be worth getting another centre forward in. There's been a couple of names touted. Alexander Isak is one. I've seen a little bit of what he does. He looks great. He's absolutely excellent in my FIFA Bristol City team. I know that much. Odson Eduardo, I think, is another one that's been sort of touted. I think just another centre forward that is a bit younger, a little bit quicker, a little bit hungrier. For the rest of it, I mean, Martinelli's. It could be argued that Martinelli's hungry, but I think the manager needs to be very, very careful and perhaps needs to start giving Martinelli some minutes because we really don't want to piss off this amazing talent that we have that we bought for a pittance because he's just going to want to go, and I just don't want to. I couldn't bear to see him in another shirt other than an Arsenal shirt. So that's it. Anyone agree or disagree with that, or?
What about Nelson? What would you do with Nelson? Just quickly, as the last thing.
I've had a real soft spot for Reece Nelson for a long time, but he is clearly, it's a very, very high standard for the attack, and he's clearly not meeting it. So I think we have to cash in on him as well, don't we? And if we do cash in on him, then use that money, or at least put that money towards perhaps buying a new centre forward, a younger centre forward, along with the lack of money, and a decent midfielder. So there you go.
Great.
Right, I just wanted to say also to everyone that's listening and to you guys as well, happy St. Paddy's.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Bit of a different one.
Is anyone actually Irish here?
No.
No, afraid not.
Me neither, but I thought I'd get a couple of cans of Guinness in. Why not? As it is.
Any excuse. Thanks a lot, mate. Great to have you on, and we'll see you next week for the Graham Ricks return.
Excellent. Yeah, and can I just ask, how was the streaming this evening? Because
perfect.
Was there no
really? Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. It's been perfect. No issues today.
All right, excellent. Well, fingers crossed, and I'll see you guys next week.
Take care, chappers. See you later, mate. Right, well, cheers, chappers. Right, we'll go through this in a similar sort of way because I know that I'm sure maybe you're running a bit of time schedule yourself, guys. But my attacking midfield options, I've got Saka, of course, Pepe, Odegaard, Emile Smith-Rowe. Then I would sell Willock and I would loan Reece Nelson. I am personally not ready to wash my hands of Reece Nelson yet. I think a good loan for a full season is exactly what he needs to. We need as well just to make our decision properly, because I think we've handled his career really poorly, in my opinion. I think he should have gone out on loan for this season. We should have found another loan for him after the first 6 months that he had at Hoffenheim as well. I know he had his issue with a couple of injuries and so on, but I think he was fit for the majority of it, but he didn't play very often. He fell out of favour. So I'm really reluctant to wash my hands with him yet. I still think there's a lot in there that we need to find out about. So I'd loan him next season. I'll get rid of Willock, and I'll bring in Ademola Lookman, which is another one out the blue. Every time I watch him, I love that player.
He's a bit greedy, though, isn't he? He's a little bit too greedy, I think.
Probably why I like him in some ways. I think he's got so much talent, though. Honestly, I really do. I think he's got so much talent. He's a player I love watching. He's so direct. He's one of the most direct players you can see in the Premier League at the moment. He gets the ball, and immediately his first thought is just go career towards goal, and he's always getting shots off. I do agree he is a little bit greedy, but he's still very young, and I think he can get that out of his game a little bit. But I love that. I love that type of player, and I can't help it. I just think he wouldn't be a first choice player, would he? I mean, but I think as a squad player, I would love to have him on board.
If impact sub to come on, I think we need
perfect.
Run at defenders and cause havoc. So yeah,
exactly what I had in mind. It's not going to happen, but I just think he's a quality player, a really exciting player, sort of player that gets me off my seat, and there's a lot to be said for that, really, in this day and age. I think a lot of fun has gone out of football, and I think I like watching players that are fun to watch. But with regards to the striking situation, I'll keep a hold of Aubameyang. I really ummed over that, because I thought, and I still would, if we had a good offer for him in the summer, I would probably part ways, if I'm completely honest, and be ruthless. But I think we can't get rid of all of our star players all in one go. And it's highly unlikely we would anyway. I would definitely keep hold of him for one more season if in an ideal world. I would sell Lacazette. 'Cause 1 year left. It'll be a mistake at his age to offer him a new contract. I firmly believe that. We've got to leave on good terms. I think I've got nothing but good things to say about Lacazette. He's had his bad moments as well, but overall, I think he's given us a lot in an Arsenal shirt. Someone actually gave the comparison with Sylvain Wiltord for Lacazette. And that's quite good, actually. The career he had, similar, it'll be seen as a similar sort of player in the future as Wiltord was, maybe.
Yeah, actually, that is quite a good comparison. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Aubameyang, Martinelli. I see Martinelli definitely being a player through the middle, long term. I would still put everything I could into getting Balogun to stay. Even if we do end up selling him, get him to sign a new contract, whatever you can do to get some value out of him, but to give him an opportunity, whether it's on loan or whether I think he could play a role some way in our squad. I would do everything we could to keep hold of him in an ideal world. And my choice of a striker to bring in to replace Lacazette is Patson Daka. I think we'd be able to get him for a really good price. I think, again, we'd probably be able to get him for under 20 million if we play it right. He's got 19 goals and 5 assists in 17 appearances this season. 19 and 5 in 17 appearances. Again, weaker league, I know, but you don't do that if you haven't got a special talent. And he's the right age, and I think he's just got everything. He's big as well. I mean, he's 6'1", I believe, around 6'1". He's powerful, and I think he is the player potentially what we wished about Lacazette was going to be. If you know what I mean, when we signed him, I think he could be that player, but be a bit of a risk. But I think it's a risk worth taking because I don't think you'd lose money on a player like that at all for the price we could actually get for him. It would only go up, if anything, if he gets more minutes in the Premier League. So I think he's worth a shot. So, Mike, what do you think about that? Odegaard, by the way, just for mopping up purposes, which I'll go through at the end, I have been, I don't know if it's cautious or whether it's or not, but I've put him down as being able to buy him for 40 million. I don't know what you think about that, but whether that's too low or just about right, or maybe too high, I don't know. But I've put him down as a 40 million purchase.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll run through all the attacking players. I've got, let's see, Willian. I know you're going to tell me that we're not going to be able to get rid of him, and you're probably right. But
sorry, I forgot about Willian. I've put him down to sell as well, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I thought it was the obvious one.
I know. Well, I'm sure he's going to hang on, but I'd try to get rid of him. And I'd try to sell Lacazette as well. Lacazette doesn't even come close to having the skill set that Arsenal need to move forward. His lack of movement is just embarrassing. I think he's a good player, but much like Hector Bellerin, I think Arsenal deserve a whole lot more. I'd loan Eddie and John Gills, keep him out on loan, and maybe give Moller a loan from the under-23s, and then also Keto Taylor-Hart, because I think we can get him to sign a contract and loan him out. He's somebody that could come into the first team as a youngster later on. Okay, moving on. Promising. Yeah. So I've got 6 players for the attacking roles, the 3 players behind the forward. I've got 6 of them, I guess, rotation, right? And what I've done here is I've chosen players that I think that the club are going to be interested in. I think that, again, moving forward, the club are going to be looking for players that offer versatility and flexibility. So I think Arteta long-term, I think one of his long-term goals is to win the game before the game, if that makes sense. As far as the other team has no idea how to prepare, because I think on the practice field these days, there's so much preparation for the other team, more than there ever has been. And if you don't know, for example, whether Smith Rowe's playing attacking mid, left wing, whether Saka's playing right, left back, he's played everywhere. I think that's really, really helpful in the modern game and will become increasingly more so. So here's the players. Keep Smith Rowe, obviously keep Saka, keep Pepe. Thought about that one, actually. I think there'll be a second-year loan for Odegaard. I think that's how that one will go, and I'd love to have that. My favourite player, the one I'd be most excited to buy of all the players we've discussed, is Buendia. We need some more goals, more of a guarantee of goals, and I'm not sure he offers a guarantee, but he's far more of a goal-scoring threat. 2-footed, much like Cazorla was, can play anywhere across the attacking line. One of my favourite players in world football, that guy. And then the other signing I'd make is Silas Wamangituka. He's also a Stuttgart player. Plays right wing back / right wing, depending on. Can also play centre forward. So when Aubameyang,
say that name again. Sorry, Mike.
He's called Silas Wamangituka.
Okay.
You need to watch him. He is, I think, the top scorer at Stuttgart this year. I think Bayern Munich are heavily chasing him. And he is somebody who could play. He plays on the right side for them, but I see him as a centre forward in time, replacing Aubameyang. So I was not sure whether I really wanted or needed him, but I think long term he could actually be the centre forward that we're lacking. Moving on to the centre forwards, so many options, but honestly, I think I would just keep what we have for right now. Aubameyang, Martinelli would be contesting the number 1 spot as a centre forward. Balogun, if we can get him to sign a contract, I think he's got every chance to be right in the mix there. And I also wanted to add, like you mentioned, my shortlist also had Patson Daka, and I'd be thrilled if we got him. Gabriel Jesus is one I think that when City bring in a better replacement for Aguero this summer, I think Gabriel Jesus will probably give up, and I think he'll come on the market. Odsonne Edouard, I think he's going to be on the market. I'd be thrilled with him. Calvert-Lewin is perfect for Arsenal, but there's no chance that Everton are going to sell him to Arsenal. Yeah. And then if we want a false 9, which I think is something else, if we're going to become a strikerless team like Manchester City, then Mikel Oyarzabal at Real Sociedad is a fabulous false 9 and can also play on the left. So lots of different options there.
Yeah, I like Alex Isak, that I've been talking about him for quite a long time as well. He looks like a really good player, very raw still, I believe. But
He's
in a
been around.
way, I think he's about 22, 23 now. But I think because he was at Dortmund originally, wasn't he? And they sent him out on loan because when they got Haaland. But he's a little bit of a mixture. It's funny. He's a little bit of a mixture. I'm not saying he's anywhere near as good as these players. I just lay that down straight away. But a mixture between a Thierry Henry and Ian Wright, with his skill set and the way that he plays football. I'm not saying I don't know whether he's going to make it. If I'm honest, I thought he would have done by now. I thought he would have really lit up the Spanish league, but he doesn't seem to have done that as much as I would like him to have done. But he's always been a player that I've liked. But I think Daka, so much potential. Edouard, I've always liked Edouard as well, but he's gone slightly down in my estimation this season a little bit because he doesn't seem like the same player. He seems to have put on a lot of weight, and he's still got a great scoring record. Don't get me wrong; he's got 20 odd goals already this season, but he doesn't seem as sharp, and something not quite right there for me. But I do like him a lot. And Richard, apologies, we'll get round to your choices, and then we'd better start wrapping up, hadn't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 players in the forward attacking areas that we've got at the moment that I would get rid of if possible. Willian's top of the list, although I agree it's going to be difficult to get rid of him. But if we can, he would be top of the list. Lacazette, as well, as we've all mentioned, I think time for him to move on. Reece Nelson, I would actually sell. I think he has had opportunities, and I don't think he's good enough for what we need to move forward. I think he could be a good Premier League player somewhere, a mid-table. I know we're mid-table at the moment, but like a mid-table club. I think he could be a decent player there, but not for us. And I would also sell Nketiah because there's another one that I feel has had chances and isn't good enough. So I will get rid of all them. And also, controversially, maybe I would sell Nicolas Pepe as well because I just don't think he's what we need. So, and I think we could get good money for him still. I know nowhere near what we paid for him, but I still think he's probably our most, out of all the players that I would sell, we'd get the most money for him out of all the others because one of the contract that he's on, his age, and the fact that he has played up and down in the Premier League for 2 seasons. So I would sell him. I would obviously keep Saka. I would get Odegaard if we can sign him for permanently, brilliant. Or as Mike said, another season loan would do. I think he'd definitely keep him. So Smith Rowe, Saka, obviously Aubameyang we're going to keep because he signed that new contract anyway. He needs to buck his ideas up. And Martinelli, of course, as well. In terms of bringing players in, with Pepe gone, I would be looking at either St. Maximum at Newcastle, especially if they get relegated, or Pedro Neto at Wolves, who's 10 times the player Nicolas Pepe will ever be. So he's a little bit younger. He's far more direct. He's got far more end product, far more consistent. So either of those two to come in for Pepe. I agree we need another centre forward. Yes, Calvert-Lewin's a player that I would love at Arsenal, but I agree with, I think it was Mike, wasn't it, who said we're never going to sign him from Everton. He's not going to leave Everton and come to us, is he? But he would be perfect for us. Failing that, I would actually, with Lacazette going, I would maybe be tempted on Danny Ings, a little bit younger. I think he's a little bit more mobile than Lacazette. He scores more goals. I would be maybe looking at someone like that. I like players that play in England because they haven't got to adapt or adjust. All these players from foreign leagues may well be good players. I don't really follow the foreign leagues that much, but my worry with them is they might take a year to settle in, and that's a year wasted of the season, like we've done it with other players before. Yes, they might not. They might settle in straight away. But I feel someone like Danny Ings or Calvert-Lewin shouldn't take any time to settle because they're used to the league. I still think Wilfried Zaha is still on my kind of radar. I would like him. I think that ship's probably sailed now, if we're honest, at his age as well, 28. I think we probably ain't going to get him. But, yeah, that would pretty much how I would. And also, in terms of the young guys, I think that Muller actually looks like he could be promoted into the first-team squad, possibly. He's another option, isn't he? I don't think we've got an option, someone who's good in the air, who can get on the end of crosses. We do tend to put a lot of crosses in now, and no one's on the end of them. he would maybe give us that extra option without getting Calvert-Lewin, of course, which would seem unlikely. So, I think if we've got some maximum on Neto on the wing, putting in more crosses, Saka who puts in good crosses, Tierney puts in good crosses, we need a centre forward, not like Aubameyang, who's not very good in the air, doesn't attack the ball. We need a centre forward who's going to attack crosses, because we are putting in a lot more crosses now. That seems to be the way that we're playing. So, yeah, either say Muller, who could, he's still too young at the moment, but I'll get him in the squad. But yeah, maybe Danny Ings as well, because he's not bad in the area, he attacks the ball, and we could probably get Danny Ings actually. I think if we really put ourselves out there. And I see another player I like is the guy at Aston Villa. I think, is he Egyptian or Albanian or something? Is it El Ghazi? I think he looks quite decent. El Ghazi at Aston Villa.
He's been around for quite a long time now at Villa.
Yeah, no, he has. But I think technically he's a very good player, and I think he could be a good player for us. Again, he's another player. Could we get someone from Aston Villa when potentially they're going to finish above us this season? You don't know. I don't know what their plans are, I guess, long term, but they're the sort of players that I would look at. But yeah, I would definitely clear out a lot of our attacking players, which I don't think are good enough, and I think have held us back over the last couple of years because they're not good enough, and we need to clear them out. We've got some great, good attacking players at the club that we keep. Martinelli needs to play more, and then I say look at getting 2 or 3 in. We should raise quite a bit of money from selling our attacking players. Got some money coming in. Neto or St Maximum would be top of my list, definitely. Especially if Newcastle get relegated, we should be all over St Maximum. We should offer Newcastle whatever they want for him. I think he'd be fantastic. I said that last season when they first signed him. He was a much better option than Nicolas Pepe at the time, and we somehow ended up with the wrong one again. But anyway, we still might be able to get that done. He's only 24 St Maximum, so he's still coming up to his peak as well. We got another 3 years out of him. I think that would be a big one for me. If they go down, we should be knocking at their door. I mean, I only live around a corner to their training ground, so I'll be knocking on his car door and having a word with him myself if they go down. I'll pay for his train ticket down to London.
There's a player here that here we are. AFC. Sorry, it was already on the screen. Being stupid now. AFC Joe Carey kindly left us a comment saying, has anyone mentioned Youssef En-Nesyri or Antoine Griezmann? Well, I don't know an awful lot about this Youssef En-Nesyri, if I'm completely honest with you. No. He's got a really good record this season, and apparently it's a player that West Ham are interested in. He's got value on this transfer mark of £13.5 million, which, again, you can take with a pinch of salt, but Sevilla this season, he has got 27 appearances and 15 goals, but he's also really quite tall. He's about 1.9 meters, which is 6'2", 6'3", something along those lines. So he could be a presence in the box. But I don't know much about him, if I'm completely honest. Do you know much about him?
I know quite a bit about him. I watched him, but I think he's being linked because Arsenal needs physical presence because Aubameyang plays like he's just scared of contact. Always has, actually. So unless you create goals that Aubameyang likes to score, Aubameyang's only going to score you 2 or 3 types of goals. So I think my hope, I don't know what Richard, is that Martinelli can be the player that.
Oh yeah,
because he's
great with his head, isn't he?
Yeah, he could be. He could be. Although I actually see him more playing on the left side. Actually, Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, and a centre forward who's going to attack crosses in the middle. And Martinelli can also come in from the left hand side. He'll get on the end of crosses from the right, which is what he was doing before. But I think he's really good on the left hand side, actually. So, yeah, he can also play through the middle. So he's that option as well. And he's probably, I know it sounds strange when Aubameyang's got all the goals, but he is probably better in both those positions than Aubameyang is, isn't he? He's a better centre forward and he's better on the left, I think, than Aubameyang. But for some reason, he's not getting a sniff at the minute, which I find baffling. But anyway, I'm sure there's a reason, and I'm sure he'll play more next season. But yeah, I mean, he's good in the air. He attacks the ball. That's the main thing. He wants to get on the end.
Exactly.
And then Aubameyang, I agree with Mike. Aubameyang doesn't want to. He's not going to put himself in a position where he might get hurt by trying to get on the end of something. Yeah. Martinelli would push his own teammate out of the way to get on the end of a cross, like he quite used to. And we don't have. I don't know why Aubameyang doesn't do that, because he scores enough goals. He'd probably score another 10 a season if he did that, wouldn't he?
Well, Think about it, Richard. Richard, you think it's not just he doesn't want to have the physical contact in the air. Where does Aubameyang hang out on every single cross? He's at the back post, never in the middle of the centre backs. He just has a legitimate fear of being hurt. I mean, maybe you could say, well, he's had a career of almost no injuries, a smart man, but that limits the team that he's playing for. And I love what you said about Martinelli, that he would push his team out the way. And the word that I would use, you did it better, but is that Martinelli has hunger. When I watch that guy play, off the ball, on the ball, he's got so much hunger, and I don't see that in Aubameyang, and I never have. He's just a niche player who scores a lot of goals, and because Arsenal don't score many goals, you sort of have to keep him until we find players that can guarantee you goals where he can, you know.
Yeah, no, that's the problem we've got, is we've relied so much on Aubameyang's goals over the last 2.5 years, since he's been at, or 3 years, whatever, since he's been at the club, that one, it's maybe stunted other people's opportunities. Nketiah hasn't got as many opportunities as he might have done. Martinelli certainly hasn't got as many opportunities as he might have done, because it's a brave man to leave Aubameyang out of the team for any length of time when he's fit. When you can pretty much guarantee if he plays 10 games, he's going to probably score 7-8 goals, isn't he? Just because that's what he does. And I totally agree. I don't know how he does it, because he doesn't put himself in the right areas often enough. And if he did, he would score 35, 40 goals every season, wouldn't he? If he actually put himself in those positions. Yeah. And I can't understand why he doesn't do it.
He plays for
he's got the stature. He's 6'2", isn't he? Aubameyang, yeah. But he doesn't put himself about like that.
Yeah, no, if you think about it, if Aubameyang played for a smaller club, he would be getting 5 goals a season, because those clubs have just whipping cross after cross in the air. They don't play this nice on the ground football. They don't play to your strengths. They just take the little scraps that they have. And Aubameyang would score very, very few goals. He's lucky he's not maybe lucky, he's a good player, but he's only really ever played for elite clubs the last 7 or 8 years of his career. And that's why, is because the volume of chances that they create for him, he's going to score goals, because what he does very well, but he's limited.
No, he is.
Yeah, he is.
You're right what you said about the type of goals that he scores. He either scores them goals when he cuts in from the left-hand side and shoots with his right foot. He'll score a lot of them. He scores a lot of goals when maybe someone puts a low cross in and he arrives at the far post and finishes them off. He's done a load of them goals as well. And then you're looking at it and you think, what other goals does he score? He doesn't make goals himself, really. I mean, the one's cutting in from the left a little bit, he cuts in and shoots, but he's not going to score a goal from nothing, is he? He doesn't chip the keeper from the edge of the box. He doesn't he doesn't throw himself into the 6-yard box, score diving headers, or get on the end of crosses or anything, does he? I don't know. I don't understand how he scores so many goals. When you watch him, after the time, I said it on my video the other day that he's not. If someone's not setting goals up for him, he's never going to score. And if you're losing the game, and the other week we brought him on with about 5 minutes to go in the game, it's like, why are you bringing him on with 5 minutes to go? He's not going to get you a goal unless we've got the ball and we're going to be creating chances. I think we were winning the game and we were just looking to see it out. There's no point bringing him on, because he's not going to do anything. He's not going to contribute to that situation at all, is he? I don't know. I like Aubameyang, don't get me wrong, and I understand that he scored a lot of goals for us, and his goals per game ratio is as good as anyone in the last 20 years at the club, probably since Thierry Henry left. But I get frustrated with him, because he could score a lot more, and he should score a lot more, because he's a natural finisher, isn't he? When he's in those positions, he's a good finisher. He is, and he's a way. He reminds me a little bit, and it might seem strange. He actually reminds me a little bit of Theo Walcott. He scored very similar goals to Theo Walcott. Theo Walcott never put himself, maybe Theo Walcott had a little bit more physicality about him actually than Aubameyang does, but they're quite similar, aren't they? Theo Walcott wasn't. Even when he played as a centre forward, he wasn't that centre forward, was he? He liked cutting in from the left hand side and shooting, or obviously his pace was a massive asset. The ball through the defence he would run onto and score. But I think they're quite similar type of players actually. And as much I love Theo Walcott and I thought he was great for us, but I guess in the overall scheme of things, him and Aubameyang, we need somebody better if we're going to challenge at the top of the league. I think we do. And I think we need a better centre forward. And Martinelli, for me, would be ideal. But I don't know what's going on with that, honestly. That's baffling for me. Why is he not?
We've all seen the training videos, haven't we, that he's working on his centre forward work.
He got taken off at half-time in the game against Man United when it was 0-0 at half-time, right? And he hadn't done brilliant, but he hadn't done bad. No one had played that well in that first half. And he's not even been on the pitch since. And He's not been on the pitch, has he, since then?
Not really. I've got a theory.
No, he hasn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said he hasn't been on the pitch since that Man United game at half time.
Yeah.
Right, carry on.
Yeah, I've got a theory. Our coach is all about organisation and structure, maybe beyond anything else. Arsenal are a far more organised team. And when you think of that, sometimes your thoughts go back to, the 90s, 80s, early noughties, where organisation structure was your back four and your midfield. It's not anymore, is it? It's your forwards and the responsibilities they have in the defensive third.
Yeah.
And tracking runners, and these things have now become very much part of the modern game, and that's why he was subbed against Man U. So I'm wondering if Arteta said to him, listen, you've got all the talent going forward, you're a threat, but you need to learn the defensive side of the game, and when you're willing to do that and learn it and improve in that area, I'll give you the opportunities to show us what you can do at the other end of the field. That's my best guess.
But is that not, I mean, I agree that could well be the reason, but is that not going to take away something massive from his game? I mean, he was last season when he first came and he was playing, first of all, in the cup games, the Europa League and the Carabao Cup and stuff like that. What was good about him was that he didn't play to any real structure. And that was what was so great about him. And defenders didn't know what to do with him. They couldn't really mark him because he wasn't, was he playing on the left? Was he through the middle? No one knew what he was doing. He would run around, chase after the ball, close people down, work 100% every game, but without, like you said, without that team structure maybe. But that's what was so great about him. And if Arteta tries to get that out of him and make him become more like a robot, like all the other players are, then I think we're going to lose something, because I don't enjoy watching Arsenal as much these days for that very reason, because it is very robotic. It's almost like synchronised swimming sometimes, isn't it, watching Arsenal play, because it is far too structured. I like to see players that are going to prepare to, take a chance and take a risk. And we very rarely do it. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's why Martinelli's not playing. And if he starts training it out of him so he gets to play, he's not going to be the same player. He's just going to be another player. Like, he's going to end up just like Aubameyang, or he's going to end up like someone else. I mean, it's only really Saka and maybe Smith Rowe to a certain degree that he allows a little bit more freedom. But even they've still got to fit into the structure, haven't they? Smith Rowe's a little bit more of a loose cannon at times in the forward areas, but he's still back defensively doing his duty there, isn't he? He's not allowed complete freedom, neither is Saka. And it's a shame, really, because those players have got so much flair, and it's almost like Arteta doesn't want that in the team. It worries me a little bit. It's like, even Nicolas Pepe sometimes is defending on the edge of his own box. And it's like, okay, do the job sometimes because you're part of the team, but that's, the same when Mesut Ozil was playing. You don't want Mesut Ozil playing and covering your left back, because you're not going to get your best out of Mesut Ozil there.
Well, Rich, how many times did I say that about Pepe? Paying 72 million quid for a glorified, wing back. You don't. I don't always blame
Pepe. I haven't always blamed Pepe. I think he has.
I'll just use Pepe as an example.
Right. Right, and sometimes he hasn't. He's not done enough.
But your flair players, you want them up front.
Yeah. You've got to allow. I mean, Odegaard seems to be the sort of player that wants to work anyway. He seems to want to tackle back, and he does that naturally by the look of it, and that's fine. But, you've got to allow those sort of players, you've got to allow them a bit of freedom in the final third so that they can do what they're good at and let them express themselves and what they're good at. And the things that maybe they're not so good at, for example, Ozil tracking back, he wasn't no good at that. If you're going to make him do that for 60 minutes in a game, you're not going to see the best of him. If you're going to make Aubameyang cover his left back, which he does, you're not going to see the best of Aubameyang at the other end of the pitch, because he's going to be knackered when he gets back up there. And if you make Martinelli do that, you're not going to see the best of Martinelli when he plays. And that's an issue. That's an issue with the coach, definitely, and if with the structure, which is helped.
I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a more hard-working player anywhere than Martinelli. He literally busts a gut. Never gives up.
No, he doesn't. But he's not doing it in the areas that Arteta wants him to be doing it.
Yeah, but
he'll chase around all the way around the back.
Frustrating, isn't it?
You track every single defender. He's just closing them down. But Arteta doesn't want him to do that. He wants him to be.
It's annoying. That annoys me. I want to see. This is what I was on about earlier when I was talking about Lookman. Yes, he's a frustrated player. I just want to see players that do things off the cuff at the sharp end of the pitch and just excite you. And
let him do it, will he? Arteta wouldn't let Lookman do it.
No, that anyway. That's for another show, another day. I think. because I know that we've been. I mean, I don't want to be keeping you within 2 hours now. Mike, how are you getting on for time? And obviously, you, Rich. Are you okay just for a few more minutes just to finish up, or do you need to go?
I'll do 5 more minutes if that's cool.
Yeah, of course. Just give us a nod when you need to go. But it's just a quick sort of overview, really, of the ins and outs and the money side of things. Because on my point of view here, I've got a list of players that I would sell, which I'll have a bit of a recap later. Maybe after you need to go, so I won't keep you too much longer. So it's Torreira, I would sell. I've put 15 to 20 million as a rough guide. Guendouzi, I've got 10 to 15. I think his value has crashed personally. Bellerin, I've got 20 to 25 million. Willian, probably quite optimistically on this one, thinking about it. I've got 8 to 10 million. We'll have to wait and see. I'd accept £8 rather than 8 million. But Lacazette, 20 to 25. I still think he's got that sort of value in him personally. AMN, 15 to 20. Runason, 1 to 2. And that I put million. But again, 1 to 2 quid is fine. Xhaka, 15 to 20.
Take the sweets from Mike. That really
I think I've probably been under on Xhaka there, but I've been, cautious. 15 to 20. Nketiah, 10 to 15. Willock, 10 to 15. So all of that added up comes to 167 million quid. At the best, at the worst, 124 million quid. Now, I mean, if we were to get all of those out, I mean, my God, I think we'd need some kind of award, but it ain't going to happen. But that's in the absolute ideal world. And the players to buy in list that I've got Douglas Luiz at 30, Odegaard 40, Coke Miners 20, Daka 20, Cash 30, and I've just realised I've missed off Lookman. What do you reckon for Lookman? 20. Oh, I'll put around 20.
Depends if they get relegated.
Yeah. Again, this is only rough, very, very, very rough. But if we were to get all of those players, that's 160. So if we were to sell all of the players and get all that players, even in the worst case scenario of the values of that list of players out, we're only looking at 36 million net spend, which, when you're talking about a much, much needed reinvigoration of the squad with young, hungry players and players that really suit Arteta's style, it's a snip, really. It ain't going to happen, but it's just an idea, isn't it, of what can be done and what amount of work has to be done in the summer. I mean, have you got a rough idea about where yours would stand, you guys? I don't mind who goes first. I mean, Mike.
Yeah, sure. Well, before I took the late decision to loan out Maitland-Niles and bring in the guy from Monaco, Chimeni, I actually broke even at 165 million of sales.
That's weird, isn't it? It's very similar.
Very similar, actually. And so I won't, break it down. All I'll say is, because I'm a little tight for time, is what Richard said earlier really struck a note, and it's the crux of what I would do if I was put in the position to change the Arsenal squad. Is I want the players on the field, in particular my first team or the players who are in the rotation, to be mostly, if not almost all of them, with Premier League experience. Because I spend way too much time wasting time looking at all these other footballers from different leagues, it's tempting because you see all these lovely shiny toys other places. But the truth of the matter is, if I was to line up the first 11, it would be looking like someone like Leno and Lamptey and Tierney and Gabriel and Mari. So the Lamptey, Premier League experience. Basuma in the central midfield, Premier League experience. Anguissa or Partey, Anguissa, Premier League experience. Buendia, same thing, Premier League and Championship experience. And all these other guys that I've kept. The only one is Wamangituka, but every player I think that if I was to pick the first 11, would be either a former player or a player who's come in with Premier League experience. And I think that that's the way Arsenal need to move. They need to go get themselves a more modern athletic team with flexible players. But I think they need to get Premier League players, because you look at the situation at Liverpool where Thiago hasn't really settled and they're on his back. And there's players all over the league, top players, that they spend a year and a half. Even Thomas Partey, like Richard said earlier, Granit Xhaka has been our best midfielder, and Thomas Partey is clearly a better player. But Xhaka has been the better midfielder because he's been around for 5 years. So I'd really rather not have to keep waiting another season for these players to bed in, when you can sign a player like Basuma over maybe a fractionally more talented player from abroad who's going to take a year to 2 years to settle in. So that's my final thought, is I would sign Premier League experience as a priority.
Yeah, I mean, very good point. Very, very good point. Richard, what about yours? I mean, how do you think that yours ins and outs would compare?
I mean, I think because I've maybe would have sold a few more players, I've got about 16, and including Saliba, who's probably worth a few quid, Pepe, who's probably worth a few quid. I think I could probably get in, maybe not far short of, I don't know, 180 million maybe in sales, if we got rid of them all. And with the players that I would be looking at buying, I've said, as Mike said as well, the players with Premier League experience, we could easily get all of them for a lot less than that. I know you've got to factor in wages and contracts as well, don't forget. And we don't know what players' contracts are going to be.
And the reality of the marketplace, obviously. Yeah, it goes without saying, doesn't it?
I think, I'd be happy if we could get 180 million for all the players I sold, and we would then be able to bring in players of the quality of, maybe Neto, Basuma, and Anguissa maybe, and Lamptey and whoever else that we needed. Danny Ings, we could probably get. We could actually really invigorate the squad, and it's getting rid of players that most of them haven't done enough while they've been at Arsenal to prove that they're going to be the ones to take us forward anyway. So we're not going to lose anything by getting rid of them. We're going to bring in some cash, and it's going to enable us to buy some players which hopefully can be better. There's no guarantee that they're going to be better.
Sorry, one moment, Rich. Sorry to interrupt. Do you need to shoot off now, Mike?
Yeah, I probably do, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Really appreciate it. I mean, just give everyone a quick shout out where they can see your work, because I know we retweet it at every opportunity and so on and so forth. But it's great stuff that you do. So where can people find it?
Yeah. I write the positives, needs, and hopes column for Gunnerstown after every Arsenal game, and I'm on their pubcast after the game. Occasionally, I do the transfer blogs when it comes up to the transfer windows for Le Grove, and the quizzes that Richard is the king of for the Mr. Arsenal channel. I think there's going to be one coming up next week, Richard. So, and of course, Andrew's done those as well. So they're the main things to do.
I have a very real tactic for that, to try and get as little points as possible every single week, and it works pretty well most of the time. But yeah, no, Mike, thank you ever so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Hope you'll come on again soon. Watch next week for the Graham Rick show. Could be a good one. And please tell Le Grove to stop blanking all my messages that I keep sending him. I don't think he thinks I exist, so put in a good word for me. That would be great.
Sure.
And hope to see you again very soon. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. See you, Richard.
Cheers, Mike. Take it easy, mate. Speak to you soon, yeah?
Yes.
See ya.
Appreciate it. Are you okay just for a few more minutes then, Rich?
Yeah, can do. Yeah.
It's entirely up to you. But yeah, it's just a real sort of a bit of a recap. But where do you remember where you were then when I rudely cut you off to say goodbye to Mike?
No, I was just saying, if we were to sell players that actually can bring in some actual money, rather than just only selling the players that aren't worth anything much, like the El Nenis of this world, the Kolasinacs of this world, and people like that we're not going to get much money for, then we're going to find it hard to improve the squad. We'd have to sell it. We have to get rid of all of them. Whereas if we can actually sell some of the players that we could still get some reasonably good money for, I say, such as maybe Saliba, such as Pepe, Lacazette, as you said, still worth some money. I think, like you said, 20-25 million for him probably. So we could, if we can raise some decent funds that way, then we've got. I would rather sell I would rather us sell. I mean, I've got 16 players on my list. We're not going to get rid of 16 players. Let's be honest. I mean, if we was to get rid of maybe 6 or 7, but if by getting rid of 6 or 7, it enabled us to bring in 3 or 4 better quality in the areas that we need, that to me will be a good summer window. And I wouldn't be expecting more, if I'm totally honest. We're not going to bring in 6 or 7, 8 players because we haven't got the money, and we're not going to sell 10, 11 players to get it in. We're just not going to do it. We're not going to be able to because no club's got money to buy, have they? That's the problem. It's not. It's not a seller's market, unfortunately, at the moment, really, because clubs haven't got the money to buy what you've got. So I think if we can get rid of 4 or 5 or 6 and bring in 2 or 3 better quality in midfield, in the attacking areas, and we do need cover for left back. And even if that was all we got, and we've got rid of a few of these players that we don't need particularly, that aren't playing much, then I think we'd have to be happy with that. But let's not expect. This is what I'm saying. But a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Arteta needs a transfer window. He needs it." Yeah, you might well need it, but he's not going to probably get it to the extent.
This is really.
That's the problem. Especially if we're not in Europe.
Mikel Arteta's job hasn't been hard enough, right? And we can all make excuses and blah blah, and everyone's had the same issues to deal with. But when it is your first job, it is different, right? And even all the transfer windows that he's had, I mean, are COVID affected ones that you can't do a normal business. It's just it's really battling, sort of paddling upstream, really, isn't he? With a lot of the stuff, but we did have a fairly good window in January. I mean, I've got 10 players on my sell list. There would be more, but I've really genuinely tried to be realistic with everyone and all the stuff that I've been thinking about for this podcast and so on. I tried to do as much as realistically as possible. And Shane's got a really good point there as well, that not only is it going to be a really tough window coming up in the summer with clubs being broke after the COVID shutdown, but it's also the Euros to think about as well, which is just, I mean, utterly ridiculous in my opinion that's going ahead. I mean, it could yet still be in this country, couldn't it? In which case, I'll probably change my mind a little bit and be quite excited about it if we can go to matches. But we have to take that as and when it comes. But that's going to be a big point as well, because if players, there's always players that either flatter to deceive or obviously have a great Euros and the price suddenly goes up and but clubs, I just can't see clubs having much money to spend on permanent transfers. There's going to be a lot of loans and loan to buys and all this sort of stuff, and people going on a free. So, although I've obviously tried to be really realistic with the players' prices that I've put down, we'd be lucky to get rid of half of them for actual permanent fees, won't we? Really. So I mean, who was it that put a good comment? Yeah, Shane again put a good comment on as well about Ødegaard. I mean, there's things like that whether we could get an option for another year's loan with Ødegaard, with an option to buy after that. But Real Madrid are really they're not in the shit as much as Barcelona, but they are still in the crap, aren't they? And they want to bring in a striker, so they need cash this summer, don't they? I don't think they'll be looking to do loan outs.
We need cash, don't they? We need cash as well. That's the issue. A lot of clubs do. So it's going to be a difficult market again. It's going to be, and it's going to be hard to get rid of players because who's going to buy them? Who's got the money to buy them? And then if we don't get rid of players and sell them, we're not going to have the money to then reinvest in the squad. And if we're not in Europe, that's going to make the problem even worse. Which is why I think it's so important that we are in Europe one way or the other, because the money that we'll get in from that at least might help, and it might encourage the owners to spend a little bit more, knowing that they've got that European money coming in through the season. But it's going to be a difficult market. I actually do feel a bit sorry for Mikel Arteta in that sense, because
me too.
It's clear that he's got, as we've said, he's got this way he wants to play. Very, very clear in his mind the way he wants to play. And for him, it's going to work when he's got certain players who can adapt to that system. And at the moment, he's got a few that can't and haven't been able to. And for him to be able to get all the players in that he needs to make the system work is not going to be possible in this transfer window or possibly the next 2 transfer windows because of the financial situation of every club in the world. So he's in a difficult situation. I think he's got to be a little bit more adaptable and understand that, and maybe make some changes to the system to suit more of the players that he's got and the players that he can afford to buy. But that's another issue. But I do feel a little bit sorry for him because he is restricted to a certain degree, and maybe other managers in the past haven't had those same problems to deal with. And he has got a massive problem this summer, because if we only finish 8th or 9th in the league or wherever it is, which is possible, which is no improvement on last year, in fact it could even be worse than last year, then if we can't then get the transfer window he wants in the summer, we haven't got European football next season. He's going to be under massive pressure to achieve better results with a squad that's probably not going to be any better. And how's he going to do that?
And also, he should have had a full summer to spend with the players this year. Obviously, apart from their normal holidays, but he should have had a full pre-season. And he's not going to get that. He's not going to get that anymore either, because of the bloody Euros that were supposed to be on last year are on this year. And so he's still not going to have a full pre-season with the squad, which is just a real shame.
No, it is. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that a full pre-season or not affects the whole season. I think it affects you at the start of the season.
No, he's getting his philosophy across. That's the main thing. He's getting his philosophy across.
He's had 18 months to get his philosophy across in training. They train every day, and most of the time through the year, don't they? I know this year was just
but not on that sort of thing. We know that because it's been such a congested season, he's hardly had any of the time to spend on that type of training, because it's such a short period of time between matches. You've got a warm down session the day after. You don't do a full training session, and the session before a match, you're preparing for that match more than anything. You've only got one day at a time at the most, and that's if you're not travelling somewhere, to actually spend on the training pitch to work on tactics. So he hasn't had an awful lot of time at all. He could have really benefited from a full pre-season to get that fully drilled into the players.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think I don't want to use that as a total excuse. Yes, it's been a factor. No,
I'm not. I just think it's a shame.
I feel he's had enough time to have got his ideas across by now. With everything that's the time that he's had with the players on the training pitch and everywhere else, he's got enough time. Don't forget, tactics sometimes are worked on, not always on the training pitch. With tactics boards, and you've seen in documentaries and those stuff like that, give insight into how it works. So I think he's had enough time. I just don't.
Like I said, I don't want to come across like I'm making excuses for him. I'm not in the slightest. It would have just been nice. That's all. It would have been nice for him to have that time.
Of course it would. Yeah.
And it's just sod's law that the way things have worked out, that he still hasn't got a full pre-season because of the Euros.
It's not going to help, and it's going to make
it's a shame.
It a little bit more difficult. It is a shame. I do feel for him because of that reason. But ultimately, I feel as though some of the players aren't good enough. And can we get rid of them and replace them with better? That's the problem we've got. And if we can, it's brilliant. If we can't, then unfortunately, where do we go? How are we going to improve results if we can't improve the players in the squad? Some of them, which do need replacing, because some of them aren't good enough. Some of them aren't even playing, and we're paying them a wage every month, every week, and they're not playing in the team because Arteta knows they're not good enough, and they can't play the way he wants to play. And it's unless we can sort that out, we're not going to make massive steps forward, are we? Until we can do that, and until we can have this big massive clear out of the squad, get money in, and then buy the players that we need, to better replacements coming in. And until we can do that, I fear that we're not going to really, unfortunately, be able to improve much more than we can. We're going to struggle to get in the top 6. We're going to struggle even more to get in the top 4 until we can get that out. And unfortunately, I don't know when that's going to be. Whether it's next year, the year after, it might take us 5 years now with the recovery from this.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see, because I honestly would have, and I still am a little bit, but I would have been actually really confident if he could have had a full pre-season and had a good turnaround of staff, playing staff this summer. I really think we would have had a good shout at top 4 next year. I know I may sound mad, but I really do. I really do think we would have had a good run at it, genuinely. So I do feel really sorry for him. Well, I feel sorry for myself and all of us fans more than anything that he's not going to have a full pre-season on the pitch with the players, because I think it really does make a difference. And you can say all you like. I mean, James said it just now as well. Training in person is a lot different to doing shit over Zoom. And that's quite a very eloquent way of putting it, James. And I do agree.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. You can't make up for it.
No, you can't. I mean, that was between March and June, wasn't it? They were doing stuff on Zoom and stuff like that. So that affected the end of last season, if anything. And that
was useless. Yeah.
But it kind of helped us in a way, because we actually improved slightly in the way that we play. We won the FA Cup. Yeah, that hasn't affected this season, all that Zoom stuff.
No. But just imagine, though, if that had been transferred to actual training on the pitch instead, the difference that would have made. It made a big difference as it was, because he obviously got his point across very well. But imagine if it was transferred onto the training pitch, it would have been 10 times better, if not more. And this is not an excuse. It's just a shame, because we're not going to see the full impact of Arteta ball properly again next season either. I don't think, because you do need that time with the players and telling them actually in practice on the pitch what to do and where to go in certain situations if you want to get the full time. So it's going to be it is a shame, and I just can't believe these Euros are still going ahead. It's just utter ridiculous that they're a year late already and they're still going ahead, and people are just seeing them as an inconvenience. They're not, unless you're really massively into your international football, which I certainly not. Same as anyone. If we start getting carried away like Euro '96 and that, yeah, great, I'm all up for it. But I'm not looking forward to these Euros. Are you? I mean, it's just going to be a load of. It's just trying to squeeze them in for the sake of it. It's a joke.
I agree. I think obviously the World Cup is due next year anyway. Just wait for that.
Yeah, early, halfway through the season.
Well, yeah, but whatever. There's a World Cup in 2022. That was the year it's due. Let's just go for that World Cup next year. This Euros, unfortunately, should have been last year. We couldn't do it. So, unfortunately, that's life. Sometimes these things happen. And just that Euro tournament never happens. And it just gets the next Euro tournament in 3 years' time from now would be this one replayed then, and then. So, whatever countries were hosting it, including us, get that next one. And then it just gets all moved along one. And that's it. That's what I have to do. That's the sensible thing to do. It's madness playing this summer, especially now. Yeah. Even now, half of Europe's gone back into lockdown. Who knows what the situation is going to be like in June and July in the rest of the world? We don't know, like it, let alone anywhere else. And to get people flying around, getting teams flying over here, us flying over wherever it is, it's just crackers. Playing the European games has been madness enough this season. All European competition should have been banned this season, definitely. Realistically, all international football should have been banned this season. And
they should have done it the way they did it last year. That was quite entertaining at the end of the season. Because there wasn't the Euros, that was more entertaining when they had the little competitions, wasn't it? That was good.
Yeah, maybe you've done that. Yeah, but you still got the flying around aspect, I guess. But this season's they've cared more about the wrong things. They've focused on the wrong things that they should have done this season. And it's going to cause, like you said, if they play the Euros this summer, which it seems like they are, there's going to be no break again. And players would have played constantly for 2 years without much of a break at all, apart from the original COVID break when they got 3 months to play about on Zoom. But other than that, they would have played pretty much constantly for 2 consecutive years in a row, wouldn't they? So you've had 3 seasons in a row when you think about it, but 2 complete calendar years, I think a bit more.
Again, I'll probably go against the grain here when I say this as well. But I do think that the ownership will put some money in. I'm sure they'll want it. Whether they want it back eventually, I don't know. But I do think that they'll put some money in, and they have shown since they had full ownership of the club. To be fair to them, that they've put money in when needed. It's the club's money, but they've done things to help us out. Without doubt, since they took full ownership, 2 or 3 years ago, and I do think that'll continue. I do genuinely think that will continue. It's just, as we've all known, and it's an old cliche now. We've put the money in. We've spent a lot of money, but we've spent it badly. But I do think that you can see slight green shoots of that starting to change as well over the last 2 or 3 transfer windows, where we're starting to bring in the right type of player. And it's always going to be hit or miss when you bring in any player at all. But I do think it's been more hit than miss lately with the players that we're bringing in. And I just wanted to quickly, just before we go as well, and if we did get European football, and I know there were some questions earlier on about the youngsters and the young defenders, especially was asked about and stuff. But I've just made a list of some players that I think would genuinely be in with a shout of playing in the Europa League group stages and the early rounds of the Carabao Cup next year. And it's quite a long list. I'm really excited about what the academy are doing, because the players are getting much better quality that coming through there. It's really exciting. That guy, there's a young lad we got from Huddersfield. I mentioned him on Ryan's show yesterday. Tim Akinola. I think he's really exciting. He's not, a massive in stature, but he's a massive of heart, like I said yesterday. I think he's got a real good, bright future if he carries on in the same way. He's got a little bit of a tendency to be a little bit rash at times. He had a sending off not too long ago, but I think unless you sound funny, he's a better quality, although I did like him at the time, Emmanuel Frimpong. I did like him when he started breaking through, his attitude and his love for Arsenal and that. But he was very frayed around the edges. I think Tim Akinola is a much more sort of professional, smooth around the edges type of player, but it's got a similar sort of quality, if you know what I mean. I think he's one to keep an eye out for anyway, and I think he will do a good job in the early rounds of the cups. Miguel Aziz, we've already had that conversation. I think he's probably one of the top players to come out of that academy. I think he could have a similar impact, to Smith Rowe and Saka in the first team. Obviously on a completely separate part of the pitch and different type of player, but I think he could go to the top if we look after him. Ballard and McGuinness are the closest we've got probably to breakthrough centre backs. I feel a bit sorry for Zach Medley. If he would have made it, he would have made it by now. And I don't think, unfortunately, the early promise is going to show through to actually play for Arsenal. I think he'll probably end up going this summer. But like I said earlier in the show, and hopefully you might listen back, the people that have joined us late, but McGuinness, I think, is a really good shout to maybe play some early round cup games. Ballard, it's a very similar level, but the only thing that sets them apart for me is McGuinness's overall attitude. I think he's got a really good attitude. He does remind me of a sort of a young Tony Adams in that sort of respect. But then we've got Talaji Bola. That jury's out on him. He's 22 now. Again, I think similar to Zach Medley. I think he would have made it now if he was going to make it. And I believe, like Mike said earlier, his contract is up in the summer, so unsure about him. But Kathleen Serjan, he is similar. When I say these comparisons, it's just to give you an idea of the type of player that they are. I'm not saying they're as good, obviously, but Kathleen Serjan, very much like a Mesut Ozil type player in and around the box. Very, very skillful. Ben Cottrell, although he prefers to play 10, I see him as a sort of a smaller, diminutive version, but in a similar sort of style to Steven Gerrard, that type of player. Dynamic runs from midfield and just sort of having a shot from the edge of the box and the odd one going in and stuff. I see him as that more of a player than a number 10 personally. But again, he's been in and around the under 23s for quite a while now, and although he is a very good player to watch, I don't know whether he will cut it. But I do like him. very small, diminutive, like I say, smaller stature, can get bounced off the ball pretty easily. Trey Coyle, I like. He reminds me a lot of Kevin Campbell type of player, but he can play on the wing as well as striker. Very powerful, similar in sort of physical stature to Lacazette as well, but I think maybe a bit taller. I love the goalkeepers, Carl Hine and Arthur Okonkwo. I think they're pushing each other. They're both top quality. I think they both could be first team goalkeepers. Clearly, one of them will end up losing the battle and maybe end up moving on. Because they won't both want to be sitting around doing nothing. But it's great to have. I mean, they are probably as good as at their age as Wojciech Szczesny. You know, when he came through as a youngster, he came into the first team at quite a young age, and obviously took him maybe a year or two to properly establish himself. But he certainly didn't look out of place, did he? He was a quality goalkeeper, and I rate them just as highly. I think they could go right to the top, both of them. Yes, they're still raw, but they're bound to be. They're only 18, 19 years old, but they're already a real big presence, but they're great with their feet as well, and they command their box really well. I honestly, when we did have Runarsson in goal for those few games that he played, I thought, why? I mean, why did we buy him in the first place? Because these two are equally, they're loads better than him already at their age, genuinely much better than him, and. You just see the difference between the quality, the way that he's so timid and scared. They come out and they command their box already beautifully, as far as I'm concerned. It's like I'm going to come to Joe Lopez, Joe Curry. He's another good. I don't think he's ready for first team exposure in the sort of more important games. But Joel Lopez is definitely worth giving a few minutes to in the Carabao Cup already, and again, Europa League group stages. Definitely one to watch. Still not quite ready, like I said, but I would start dipping his toe in the water just to get him more and more interested, and give him that carrot to sort of keep pushing to improve all the time. I'd say he's at that sort of level at the moment. And James says Okonkwo out of contract. Okonkwo out of contract in the summer, isn't he? Sadly, but I'm not too worried about that. All the rumours are that that's all being dealt with, and he will be staying with the club. Thankfully, because we stood by him. He was out of first team, the under 23 squad for a long time. I believe about 12 to 18 months with injury. And we really stuck by him throughout that whole period. He's been with the club for many years. I think it's no issue with him signing a new contract, thankfully, as well. John Jules as well. He's another one. Very similar to what I said about Trey Coyle. I think he is a very similar player. I only think that one of those two will make it as well. Because there wouldn't be a need for both of them, and they're both far too similar. It's a toss-up, really. I think between the two of them, I like both of them, and there's no point in choosing. But one of them will sort of push the other one out before too long. Charlie Patino is the one that everyone is talking about at the moment. Again, in style, I would say closest to probably. Maybe a Martin Ødegaard type of number 10, rather than a Mesut Ozil type of number 10. Hard-working, very skillful, knows where the goal is. He's only 17, and he's made the step up this season now to very recently, 2 or 3 weeks ago, to play regular under 23 football now. So playing well above his age group, and he's looking like a massive prospect. I think probably the most exciting, since Saka for a start. But then going back before that, Jack Wilshere probably talking about him in the same sort of way that Jack Wilshere was when he was breaking through. Kedo Taylor Hart is another one. I believe I'm correct in saying he was like a football freestyler that caught the eye because he was so good online, right? And got a trial on the back of doing his freestyle work on YouTube or something along those lines. And he's just unusually for that type of player. They're normally fantastic when they're doing all those tricks and skills, but when it comes to actually playing football, they never really make it as a professional. But he's been outstanding. He's a left winger primarily, but could also play through the middle. He's actually played in midfield as well at some point in his youth career. But I think he's really taken to it when he's cutting in more from the left. And he looks electric. He looks a really good prospect as well. He's a bit of a late bloomer, a bit older than the other ones, but I think he could actually make it. They're offering him a new contract as well. There's Jonathan Dinzai, who's another centre-back, and Omar Rekic. I'm a bit concerned about Rekic, although it's still early days, but we've paid a lot of money for him for a youth player to put him in the under-23s, and he's not played for the under-23s yet, and we've had him since the summer. No, beg your pardon, since January. We bought him in the summer, but he didn't actually join until this January. But he's still yet to make his debut, so I hope it's purely down to fitness, but he was playing regular football when we got him. So it's a bit of a weird one. I've not really heard much as to what the situation is there in the background, so I'll have to keep an eye on that one. He's obviously well thought of to actually pay the amount of money we did. But Jonathan Dinzai was released by them lot down the road, and he's actually been doing quite well. But I don't think he's done quite as well as we really, really would have hoped, because he does look like a really good player. But maybe it's just a settling in period into a real club after leaving Spurs that's hit him harder than you can imagine, because he's playing for a decent football team now. So maybe he's playing a bit of catch up. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Nikolai Moller is the new Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I've still got really high hopes for him. He's a real presence. It's the actual identikit player for the cliche. Great touch for a big man. Is it me, or is Richard frozen for everyone? Are you there? Can you still hear me, Richard?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. You're moving. Yeah. Nikolai Moller, yeah, he's a great touch for a big man. Suits him perfectly. He started off right, and everyone was, and myself included, really, really excited about him. And I still am, but I don't think he's quite been as consistent as we would have hoped this season. But I don't think the same could be said for the under-23s team. And like I said in Ryan's show yesterday, I hate to say it because I love the guy, but I don't think Steve Bold is doing a great job in coaching them to work as a team, the under-23s anymore. I think a lot of the players aren't playing to their absolute peak. And it's got to be, I'm sorry, but the one consistent is Steve Bold. And I absolutely love the guy. But I think it's time for a change there. And I would love Dennis Bergkamp to go in and do it. And I will not stop saying it until he gets the job. So you'd have to put up with it. But yeah, Nikolai Moller is he's still a very good prospect. He looks really, really good. He's working as a two. They're playing 4-4-2 mostly in the under-23s, and he's a partner in Balogun, and they play really well together. They complement each other really well. But I think he's just slightly cooled off. But maybe, as I said, it's down to the team's poor form more than anything. James Olayinka, he was another one we had real high hopes for. He plays, I think, personally, he plays a lot like Kolo Touré, but in midfield. He's currently on loan at Southend, and he's been injured since December. But he's got to that age as well, early 20s, about 20, 21. which obviously is still very, very young, but I think he's destined to be leaving. And Ozai Tutu, I like him a lot as a player. He reminds me a little bit of not quite as skillful, but the way that he plays is very similar to Lamptey, actually. He's been playing a lot on the right wing more than right back when he's been on loan. And he's been doing really well and banging in goals as well. But he's been injured a little bit as well. And his contract is up in the summer. I'm hoping that we will renew it. Again, just even if he doesn't make it at Arsenal or we don't sort of keep trying to bring him through, just to protect our asset, really, because he's been with the club since he's a little kid, and it'll be a shame to just see him walk away. But I don't know what's going to happen there, to be honest. I would like to keep him, and like I said earlier in the show, potentially he could be like fourth or fifth in line to cover on the right, especially in the Europa League and early cup competitions. So there we have a real detailed analysis of where we are with the squad after all this period of time. Hope you found it interesting, guys and gals, that are watching. I know, yes, we are still going, Russ. We are finishing now. We're getting into the territory of Ryan's length of show that went on yesterday now. So we're going to call it a day. But Richard,
still listening as well. Then that's the main thing. So cheers, Ross.
Yeah, no. Have you got anything just to finish up with? Are you happy with the way things are?
No. So I mean, obviously, we have got some great young players at the club, and not all of them are going to make it, of course, because they never do. That's just the nature of it, isn't it? But if one or two of those can have an impact in the first team, similar to the Smith Rowe and Saka have done, and a couple like that, if we can get another couple of them coming through over the next year or so, a couple of years, that would be great, wouldn't it? And it saves you a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And it does seem as though there's something happening there that hasn't happened for a while in terms of the quality of the younger players that we've got now. Whether it's the coaching that they're getting, whether we're just picking better youngsters when they're younger in the first place, the scouting's maybe better, but something's definitely changed, and it's good because that's going to be a massively important part of most clubs over the next 5 years, I think, with the impact of all of this financial stuff that's gone on. So, yeah, it's the future in some ways is looking really bright, and in other ways I'm worried about where it's going to go. I'm in a little bit of a dilemma with it all, but I guess time will tell how it pans out. But I think it's going to be a difficult couple of years anyway, regardless, if we're honest. And we just need to be patient and hope that things turn before too long, because I want to see another successful, really successful Arsenal team, at least one more in my lifetime.
Oh, definitely.
It'd be nice to be that. But
I've never been more confident in the youth coming through. I really haven't. It's been they're doing the right thing. I mean, Per Mertesacker and all the people there deserve a massive pat on the back, because the quality of players coming through lately has been, one of the best in my lifetime since the early 80s. The 80s, with all the players that are now household names with all Arsenal fans. It's the best crop since then, in my opinion. Yeah. I know we've had the odd brilliant one in the meantime as well, but it's. And I'll tell you what, if we don't qualify for Europe, or if we qualify for that, I'd dread it if we did that Europa Conference. I'd really be so humiliated if we do that. But if we qualify for that or no Europe at all, I'll get what we can out of all the players that we want to bring in. But I wouldn't overpay for them just to do that. I would much rather go whole hog pretty much and bring all the best of the best of the youngsters through, and just go for it and really try and bring a youngsters through for a season. We've got nothing to lose as far as that's concerned. Then maybe I would try and bring as many of those through as I could, and be done with it. Go whole hog rebuild, leave no stone unturned. Just get rid of all the other players as much as we could, and go with youth, the best of the best youth that we've got. Bring in some of the best players that we can, and see what we can do with that lot. Then I think that'd be the ideal opportunity. If it couldn't get much worse, could it? I mean, They could get worse, but let's not go there. But anyway, thanks ever so much again, Rich. And it's always a pleasure. Tell everyone once again how they can get to see your stuff, which is great.
Yeah, the channel's over and over and over again on YouTube. I'll try to keep things as positive as possible. It's not always easy, especially this season, but I don't, I try to avoid all the unnecessary kind of bullshit that goes on at other channels, really. So it's positive stuff on there. I do match reviews, match previews. I have watch-alongs. I'll be doing a watch-along tomorrow at the Olympiacos game. I've got the fan cam afterwards. Obviously, you're going to be on, Andrew, aren't you? And there's a few others coming on as well after the game just to get some instant reactions. That'll be good. I'm going to do a watch-along of the Arsenal women as well on Friday. They're playing at 6:30 against Manchester United. Big game to get Arsenal back into the top 3 for qualifying for Europe. So that's a big game there. So I'm going to be doing a live watch along of that. And then I'll be doing a West Ham pre-match show on Saturday. I've got a West Ham fan on. I used to go to school with him, actually. So it's going to be good to catch up with him and go through, because most people I went to school with are West Ham fans. So it'd be good to catch up with him and, go through a few past matches and that kind of stuff. So that's on Saturday at 7:00. And then obviously Sunday, there'll be a watch along of the West Ham game and hopefully another fan cam afterwards. So those coming up on the channel as well. So it's over and over and over again, the Positive Arsenal channel on YouTube, and on Twitter it's at Over and Arsenal, and my personal Twitter is at GoonerRichB, and I post all the links and stuff on there as well. So you can keep up to date with what I'm doing.
Great, it's a great channel. Now I'm always very, very happy to when you invite me on. Now I love to go on your channel as well. So please, everyone, go and check it out if you haven't done so already, and give Rich a subscribe so you don't miss all those shows that he's got coming up. And I just keep my fingers crossed that there's no natural tragedies or anything like that, or any kind of tornadoes or whatever that may stop Graham Ricks coming on next week, but it's confirmed for next Wednesday. So fingers crossed, everyone. Positive vibes that will happen next week. So that should be a really good show. Thanks. Please give us a like before you leave. Tell your friends and to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And we'll leave it there. Thanks. The comments have been fantastic today. So thanks to all of you in the chat. It's really appreciated. Hope we got through most of them as we've been working our way through. And once again, before we finish, up the Arsenal. See you next week.
Gunners, come on.
Up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Come on, you Gunners.